As our world continues to transform and emerging technologies begin to disrupt and reshape the world we live in, we have been preparing for their impact. For us, to live and breathe technology is a way of life. We are Integrated Microelectronics Incorporated, or simply IMI, deeply involved in game-changing and radical transformations in technology solutions. 4 decades of experience have prepared us to conquer continents. From a global manufacturing solutions partner, we are now a global technology solutions company, transforming your vision to tangible solutions. Continuing our legacy of growth and innovation.
Well, IMI was able to get this far, not by chance, but by strategy. We are fortunate that we were supported by our shareholders, our board, and the aligned vision we had with Ayala Corporation. We are fortunate that we have a global leadership team that's been able to execute on all the different strategies that we have determined to be important in being able to achieve where IMI is now. We will continue our focus on our strategy in the mobility, industrial connectivity, and smart energy space. Using our organic and acquired capabilities, we will now enable us to provide a full technology solution for our partners. IMI was able to achieve its current position because it has been proactive in adapting and transforming itself to continue to be relevant to the changing market, as well as sustain its drive in providing the product realization mission to its valued partners. We are future ready.
A global company with a diverse culture, embracing a connected existence. We continue to expand and are positioned to bring the future in the automotive, industrial, and aerospace industries. Continuously evolving in the ever-changing world of technology while keeping focus on our vision, we remain relevant and at par with global megatrends, passionately immersed in shaping the future. For us, the future begins now. We are IMI. We are future ready.
Sa pagpatak ng ulan, sa pagsubok na dumaraan, may tapang kang harap, lilipad kang may pangarap. Lilipad kang may pangarap.
Kailan ay di mag-iisa, susulong ka ng may kasama, may tapang kang harap.
Lilipad kang may pangarap. Lilipad kang may pangarap. Simula na ng bukas, ngayon na, ngayon na. Simula na ng bukas, ngayon na, ngayon na. Simula na ng bukas, ngayon na, ngayon na, ngayon na.
Sumpay sa pagbabago,
harapin ang bagong mundo. Simula na ng bukas, simula na ng bukas ngayon.
Ngayon nakikita ko na really may solution. Gifted ang mga Pilipinas eh. Kung mailalagay lang natin sa right perspective yon, ma-achieve natin. Ako po ay si Engineer Alexis T. Vilonio, Agricultural and Biosystems Engineer. Ako ang first Filipino na nakareceive ng Rolex Award for Enterprise. Pag si Lord yung nagturo nung ginagawa natin, hindi natin mapagdadamot. Parang nag-open lang yung heart ko na gusto ko lang makatulong. So yun, sinier ko, naging open source siya 2005 nung start kong talagang i-develop yung rice gasifier stove. Ang technology na to gumagana sa pamaraan ng tinatawag na gasification process. Magagamit natin pangluto sa mga dryer, water pumping, mag-produce ng ilaw o kuryente. Ito yung tinatawag nating gas burner. Gagamit tayo ng ipa na may halong plastic. Wala siyang amoy kung ang process is gasification. So sisindihan na natin. Habang bumababa yung apoy niyan, nagiging filter to, nagiging charbel. Ganun lang kasimple. Kaya nga problema natin dito sa bansa, in a shorter time, may solution tayo.
Nagmamahal ang mga bilihin. Ang concern ko is dapat may maihanda ako sa 3 times a day. Dapat swak rin sa budget. Mas nakakatipid. Nakakadagdag pa ako sa baon ng mga anak ko. Pag namamalengke, may pandagdag pa.
Malaking tulong yun. Yung gasol napakamahal. Yun 10 piso lang sa akong ipa. Nakakaluto ka na. Nakapagluluto ka ng mga 1 linggo, 2 linggo yung...
Nakakatulong sila sa environment dahil itong byproduct can be used as soil conditioner sa ating lupa. Sa household, makaka-avail po talaga ng malaking katipiran.
Nire-respect nyo yung mga inputs para eventually mag-improve yung progress at ma-deliver sa farmer. Top-notch at caliber po talaga. I'm proud na I'm working with Engineer Belonio and not working for Engineer Belonio.
Rapat na makatanggap sana ng award si Engineer.
Yeah, I'm very thankful and happy, proud. Malaking encouragement po. I'm praying na maging somehow I can be like him.
Excellent, no? Engineer is you made pagparbiyan sa common. Pero alam niyo ba sikreto ng parbiyan? Si Lord ang sikreto. Pag nasa grace kasi tayo, nag-fall tayo doon, lahat may solusyon.
Kung gusto nating baguhin yung sitwasyon ng mga magsasaka, yung antas nila sa lipunan, kailangan natin silang i-empower. Ako si Dr. Michael Dragasin, son of a farmer, isang researcher at engineer.
Sa baba ng presyo ng palay, halos bawing gastos lang po. Nagtitira lang po kami ng pambigas. Mahirap po talaga pag malayo ang kiskisan.
Yung magulang ko kasi noon ay isang magsasaka din. Naisipan ko na mag-develop ng compact corn mill at saka yung impeller rice mill para matulungan sila at madagdagan ang kanilang ani.
Madali lang pong gamitin ng kiskisan ito. Simple lang po. Meron po siyang blower. Doon po inilalagay yung palay. Pinag-aakyat ng palay, papunta po doon sa mill. Doon na po sa kiskisan.
Malaking bagay sa mga membro. Hindi siya nangangailangan ng malaking lugar.
Napakataas ng milling recovery. Brown rice pa yon. May bebenta mo yung sa reasonable price. Talaga abutin mo mga 20% sa kita.
Napakabuti niyang kawan. Friendly siya, approachable, tapos mababang loob.
Hindi po niya pinahalatang siya doktor pagkaharap po kaming mga magsasaka.
Lagi niya pong ini-instill sa isip namin na gawin yung tama sa trabaho.
Dapat with heart, may puso sa pagtatrabaho. Mas nagiging successful yung trabaho niyo, mas gumaganda yung project, mas magaganda yung output.
Nagbubuhat siya ng palay, talagang feel mo yung concern niya. He deserves so much. Kasi sobra talaga ang kanyang qualification sa punto na yun.
Kuya Michael, Doktor, salamat po sa inyo.
Ang isang excellent engineer rise to the call of duty with passion, applying their scientific knowledge in solving complex or common problems ng ating society. Dapat lang natulungan natin ang ating mga magsasaka. It's worth dying for.
It is important for us to have a good basis when you are asked about structural integrity. Yan ang isa sa main reason bakit nagawa itong project na ito. Dahil of course, we're talking about saving people's lives when there is a strong earthquake. I'm Dr. Francis Aldrin Uy, and I'm the inventor of the Universal Structural Health Evaluation and Recording System. Ang Pilipinas ay nasa tinatawag nating Pacific Ring of Fire. Kaya yung ating threat, no, when it comes to a strong earthquake, laging nariyan yan. The heart of AuREUS, the purpose of it is to save lives. It's very important for us because maybe someone na kilala mo, mahal mo sa buhay, nasa panganib dahil hindi natin na-monitor yung structural integrity ng buildings natin. Nandito ngayon yung AuREUS system. It is composed of two major components. The sensor or the accelerometer, and the second one is the web portal. So yung sensor natin, it also have a view of the readings na nakukuha niya to the controller. Kinukuha niya lahat yung data, pinagsasama-sama niya to provide alerts. Yung green, pag umilaw yan, that will tell people na gumalaw yung building. The movement is not so significant as long as the orange light doesn't turn on. Now, the red one, ito sana yung never na umilaw. Kasi pag umilaw yung red, ibig sabihin gumalaw siya ng sobra based sa disenyo niya. So, nandito rin yung mga warning logs natin kasi kailangan kinikip rin yung mga history records, no, ng mga events and how your building performed with those events. Nandito yung web portal natin. So, yung data, pinapadala niya automatically sa cloud. This is very useful kasi, no, for mga building managers or developers.
The AuREUS, I believe, provides for a more comprehensive and more beneficial functions in comparison with other earthquake recording instruments. They were able to combine the old concept with new technological breakthrough, not only for the benefit of the technical people, of engineers, but also the general public.
Nakita naman ni Mayor Moreno kung gaano ka-effective yung kanilang accelerometer. So right away, nag-instruct si Mayor na mag-purchase. Maganda tong AuREUS. Makikita mo na makaka-prevent ka, ma-evacuate mo agad yung mga tao kasi mamamonitor niya agad kung may movement. Approved to ng DOST. Ito, Filipino-made. Kaya proud kami kay Dr. Aldrin Uy sa AuREUS Technologies.
Yes, of course, Dr. Uy deserves that award. He's a great leader, especially to us young civil engineers. He's very passionate about AuREUS Technologies. He's dedicated to the cause, to helping the Filipino people. I'm very proud to be part of the team that started this AuREUS technology.
Being an excellent engineer needs a heart. So if you put your heart into it, I think that's where you find what you call excellence. I see AuREUS as a means for Filipino ingenuity to be recognized, not just in the Philippines, but also abroad. We don't just have technology. Sabi nga namin, AuREUS is a gift of hope. We have the opportunity to save lives. This is something that we can offer to the world.
Pag nakikita niyo yung ngiti sa mga labi nila, yun po yung hindi matutumbasan ng kahit gaano kalaking halaga ng salapi. Sabihan ka, maraming salamat sir, dahil dito okay kami. Yun po yung pinaka-premyo sa akin. Roel Mojica, isang lingkod po from Cavite State University. Ang ating local coffee farmers ay pinaka-nakakaawang sektor kabilang sa poorest among the poor. So, sabi ko, mag-provide ako ng isang equipment para i-process nila yung sarili nilang produce at sa kanila ibenta. Ang Bravura roasting machine ay binuo natin para sila po yung makinabang ng husto dito. Through this roasting machine na locally available, locally produced at customized, hindi lang po doble, hindi lang po triple yung magiging halaga noong kanilang produkto. Ako po kasi ay anak ng coffee farmer. Nakapag-aral po ako at nakapagtapos at nabigyan ng napakaraming opportunities dahil po sa pagkakape. So yun po yung nag-motivate sa akin, makakapag-angat sa antas ng pamumuhay ng mga local coffee farmers natin.
Yung Bravura roasting machine, during its development, the method is participatory, meaning they really ask farmers what they wanted, what are their problems, and those are the inputs para sa creation ng machine.
Dinala po kami doon ng DAR para sa isang seminar, sa isang training. Doon po kami nagsimula, ma'am, ano ba yung tamang pagpuproseso, ano yung dapat mong malaman para po makapag-create ka ng magandang kalidad na kape. Si Dr. Mojica po ang nasa likod lahat po ng iyan. Yung pong roasting machine, paligay po napaka-practical po sa aming mga coffee farmers kasi po napaka-affordable po nito. Tsaka ang easy-easy po niyang i-manage.
Noon, nangupahan lang kami, pero ngayon sarili na namin pati lupa dahil sa tulong ni Doktor. Kung ano mga procedure, nalalaman namin dahil sa kanyang kalaman para ibigay sa amin. Napakabuting tao na hindi kami pinapabayaan. Ako'y napapasalamat.
Leadership ni Dr. Roel is people-oriented. Hindi siya boss, he's more of a leader who really is humble enough to talk to people. He entrusts that type of excellence to the people who work with. Lagi niya sinasabi sa amin is, ano na ngayon? What's the impact? So, ano may tutulong nito sa community? Developing a machine for people, being able to help them. Nakakatuwa kasi naipapasa talaga.
Ang isang excellent engineer para sa akin, may puso na nagmamahal sa kababayan at may puso na handang tumulong sa mga kababayan. No amount of money, success, prestige, or awards ang makakapagpasaya sa akin. Yung makita ko po na meron akong isa o dalawang tao na natulungan at sumaya at na-improve ang buhay, yun po yung mission ko, hindi lang para sa sarili mo, kundi para sa kapakanan ng ibang tao.
Good afternoon, everyone, and happy World Engineering Day. I am Jill Ramos from Manila Water Foundation, and I will be your host for today. In partnership with the Department of Science and Technology, the Philippine Technological Council, Manila Water Foundation welcomes you to the World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development 2021 webinar. This webinar is a celebration of engineers in engineering and is co-presented by Manila Water Company and the Integrated Microelectronics or IMI and Globe Telecom. Today, March 4, the whole world is celebrating the contributions and impact of engineers and engineering in our modern life. At this point, I would like to greet all of our participants from DOST and PTC and their affiliate offices and organizations. Good afternoon, and we are glad to be able to reach engineering communities here and abroad. A great afternoon to all of the participants who are currently viewing our live feed on the Engineers for Excellence Facebook group and MWF's Facebook and YouTube pages. Please note that we are only streaming using these platforms. You may interact with us and our speakers through the comment sections. In the next 2.5 hours, we will be learning from top calibered engineers who are recognized not only here in the Philippines, but in the whole world. They will talk about projects on how they and their agencies are able to contribute to the attainment of specific UN Sustainable Development Goals and ultimately sustainable development. The theme for this year's celebration is Engineering for a Healthy Planet. So our speakers will also highlight this in their presentations. But before we go into that, we are honored today to be graced with the presence of no less than the Chief Operating Officer of Manila Water, who will give the opening message for today. Please welcome Mr. Abelardo Basilio.
Hi, thank you, Jill. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you all for joining us today as we celebrate the World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development this year. I think this is the first time Manila Water Foundation will celebrate this global event, and we are glad to have the support, as mentioned by Jill a while ago, of our partners from the DOST, Department of Science and Technology, and the Philippine Technological Council. I think the past years, MWF have been very avid supporters of engineers and engineering projects. Again, as a background, we felt that despite the contribution of our local engineers to our society and communities, our very own engineers are not properly recognized. I think being engineer myself, I actually share this thought. This is the reason why we conceptualized, the Manila Water Foundation conceptualized the Prize for Engineering Excellence and give well-deserved recognition to our outstanding Filipino engineers, and at the same time support their breakthrough technologies by providing a platform where they can actually promote their projects. I believe that you will agree with me that we all are aware of the extent and impact of engineers, and engineering itself has made to our society as a whole. I think you have seen in a video earlier. In fact, engineers have completely changed the world. From modern buildings, bridges, you saw modern agricultural technologies made by our engineers, and latest digital mobile technology all over here. Truly, as I have heard from our winner, one of our winners, innovative ideas are the heart of the engineers, for all engineers. We engineers use this knowledge to create new and exciting products and solve problems of our communities, just like what our previous winners of this engineering excellence have done. I think there are no aspect of the world wherein we live today that isn't affected by the work of engineers. I think any physical or functional product requires at least some degree of engineering design. I think buti lang, me myself is an engineer and really proud of being an engineer. Manila Water will continue to support this profession and recognitions, since it does not only allow us to pay tribute to our engineers, but also enable us to help ensure the continuity of this profession by encouraging more students, men, women, and even our young people here to choose engineering courses. We hope that with today's webinar, we will be able to achieve this purpose. Today, I think we are glad to be joined by engineers who we consider as one of the best in their field. I think opening today's program will be another engineer, the Philippine Technological Council President, Fred Monsada. Another engineer, Dr. Marlene Kanga of the World Federation of Engineers Organization. And of course, thank you to our very own engineer, Baffrey, who will share how Manila Water will help in achieving sustainable water supply through our infrastructure program. We also have two other winners of our 2015 Prize for Engineering Excellence Awardees, Dr. Enrico Paringit and Dr. Joel Joseph Marciano Jr. They are currently servicing as directors of agencies under DOST. Today, they will share how their agencies will help the nation achieve sustainable development through highlighting the theme, Engineering for the Healthy Planet. As we hope to encourage more women, I think we have a woman engineer here, Dr. Lydia G. Tansinsin, and a young engineer Carvey Maigue. Dr. Lydia Tansinsin is the founding president of PTC, and congratulations, and she is a recipient of the 2019 GREE WFEO Woman in the Engineering Award given by the World Federation of Engineering Organizations. While Engineer Carvey Maigue is a student engineer from Mapua University who won the James Dyson Award for Sustainability in 2020 for his project Solar Panel Windows Invention. Again, with that, I hope that all of us will learn a lot from today's speakers and take inspiration from these outstanding engineers. Again, welcome and thank you very much for your presence.
Thank you so much, Sir Abe. You know, Sir Abe he's not just a great engineer, but he's also an inspiring leader for all of us in Manila Water, who always pushes us to do our best. And I truly agree with what Sir Abe said, that innovative ideas and solutions are truly at the heart of every engineer. So before we move on, I encourage all our viewers to send in their questions about the celebration through the comment section of this broadcast on Facebook and YouTube. Our first set of speakers will answer these right after their messages. So without further ado, let's all welcome our first guest, who will introduce our first speaker for the webinar. To give us a background about our keynote speaker, let us all welcome the well-loved leader and the Philippine Technological Council's president, Engineer Federico Monsada.
Thank you very much, Jill. Thank you very much. We are privileged, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow engineers. We are very privileged and honored to have with us the lady who was actually instrumental in finally having this World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development. I am very honored to introduce her. Dr. Marlene Kanga is the immediate past president of the World Federation of Engineering Organization, Body for Engineering Institution, internationally representing some 100 engineering institutions, including, of course, the Philippine Technological Council, and approximately 30 million engineers all over the world. A chemical engineer, she was the 2013 National President of Institution of Engineers Australia, and she is a fellow of the Academy of Technology, Science and Engineering Australia. She's also a member of the Order of Australia, a national honor in recognition of her leadership of the engineering profession. During her term as WFEO president, led the initiative for the member states Day was held on 4th of March 2020. Marlene is a board director of some of the largest organizations in Australia, especially in the area of utilities, transport, and innovation sectors. She is an honorary fellow of the Institution of Engineers Australia, an honorary fellow of the Institution of Chemical Engineers United Kingdom, and a foreign fellow of the Asian Academy of Engineering and Technology. She has been listed among the 100 engineers making contribution to Australia in the last 100 years of Australian centenary celebration in 2019. She is also among the top 100 women of influence and one of the top 10 women engineers in Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very honored to introduce to you our next guest speaker, Dr. Marlene Kanga. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure, in fact, to be here, and I am honored to be speaking on this very important World Engineering Day. And happy World Engineering Day to you all. I'll just wait for my first slide to come up. I think this is my last slide. Just waiting on my slides to come up. Can you share my slides, please, Gweli? Thank you. Next slide, please. First, I'd like to give you a little introduction on the World Federation of Engineering Organizations. We are the peak body internationally for the engineering profession, founded in 1968, with some 100 national and regional and continental professional engineering institutions as our members, representing some 30 million engineers. We are the co-chair of the Science and Technology major group of stakeholders at the United Nations. We are an associate of UNESCO, and we represent engineering in all major UN organizations. And the Philippines Technological Council is the national member for the Philippines at the Federation. Next. A key narrative of the Federation is what has already been said in the videos that we've seen in the last few minutes, that engineering is essential to achieve every one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Next slide. This is a key objective that was stated when I took up my presidency in December 2017 and was advanced during my term. As part of this objective, we worked with UNESCO and the member states of UNESCO to declare World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development, a declaration that was unanimously supported by all member states. And we have also worked with UNESCO on the second engineering report, which will be released later today, entitled Engineering for the Sustainable Development Goals. This aligns with the vision, and I'm proud to say that I have written a chapter which shows how engineers can make it happen. And in addition, the report shows that we need to build capacity for more engineers, especially women, with the right skills to advance sustainable development. Next slide. The UN Secretary General also agrees for the need for more engineers, and he has stated in a message to the Federation, every one of the goals requires solutions rooted in science, technology, and engineering. Next slide. In 2018, at the 50th anniversary of the World Federation of Engineering Organizations, we made a statement with UNESCO, a joint statement on our commitment to advancing the Sustainable Development Goals through engineering. Next slide. This was the first time that we publicly made such a declaration with UNESCO, and it had three main areas. The first was to advance the UN Sustainable Development Goals by increasing the number of engineers. Secondly, to review the benchmarks and standards for engineering. And thirdly, to provide capacity building support to our members to build up the institutions to reach those global standards. And this work has begun. We stated this in the Engineering 2030 plan. Next slide, please. Next slide. So the Engineering 2030 plan has 12 principles for action. Principle 3 and 4 is on global standards and partnerships. Then we have the support for our member institutions to develop the necessary education systems. Then we have principles to develop the professional competency pathways and to support national and international registration. And finally, to support national and international registration for global mobility. Next slide. There are key areas in international engineering benchmarks that we have reviewed and which are on track for approval by the International Engineering Alliance in June 2021. Philippines Technological Council is a provisional signatory to this alliance and we hope will soon be a full signatory. One of the key areas is item 4, incorporate the UN Sustainable Development Goals in these benchmarks so that we leave no one behind. So you can see that we are working hard to make sure that engineering education also takes account of the requirements for sustainable development. Next slide. The UNESCO engineering report has a focus on the Sustainable Development Goals. And here I'm going to present 3 examples of how we have shown that engineers make a difference. The first example is for water. And of course, Manila Water Foundation has already shown how important the work done by Manila Water is in supplying sustainable water in the Philippines. More than 1 billion people lack access to clean water and 2 billion lack access to basic sanitation. This is the urgent and unfinished work of engineers. We need more civil and environmental engineers, as well as electrical and mechanical engineers to make this happen. Next slide. The other major area for engineers in sustainable development is, of course, energy. Engineers have developed conventional energy generation, but we're now innovating to develop energy sources that are low carbon or zero carbon. More than 1 billion people, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, still lack access to a reliable source of electricity. That is more unfinished business for us engineers. Next slide. And the third area that I wanted to highlight is the work of engineers in agriculture. But this I need not elaborate because the great prize winners that we have already seen and that have been showcased from the Philippines have done so much work in agriculture, in rice, in coffee, and so many other innovations. Engineers are needed as never before in improving agriculture and food production for sustainable development. And so, next slide, we come to World Engineering Day. And as you can see, the logo, which in fact I designed as well, has the 17 colors of the Sustainable Development Goals and the gears representing engineering. And you will see in the center, there are 5 colors: blue for water, yellow for energy, orange for innovation, another orange for sustainable cities, and a deep red for education, because these are the main areas that we as engineers need to work. And you will see on the gear, there is a green square. That is climate change. That drives everything. And that's where engineers are going to be needed most. So World Engineering Day is a highly strategic initiative for the entire profession around the world. It's our opportunity to tell non-engineers, to tell our politicians, policymakers, our funders, our financiers on the importance of engineering. As Sir Abe has said, engineering involves innovation, and we can't live without engineering and engineers. So happy World Engineering Day and best wishes for your work in sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kanga. And I truly believe that engineers are very essential in achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals so that we leave no one behind. All right, so at this point, we will be entertaining questions for Dr. Kanga and Engineer Monsada. So once again, let us welcome Engineer Monsada and Dr. Kanga to join me here on screen. And At this point, thank you so much, Dr. Kanga, for such a wonderful presentation. And that was such a fun fact that you were the one who designed the logo for World Engineering Day. How brilliant. So thank you for joining us also, Engineer Monsada. Good to see you, sir. And thank you for representing the Philippines so well. So we're going to wait for some questions because I believe that, some questions were asked for the both of you. So here it is. For Dr. Kanga, what inspired you to push to convince UNESCO to dedicate a day to celebrate engineers and engineering?
Well, I think I have a passion for engineering, which I think is shared by so many of the speakers and winners that we have seen today. And engineers are not very good about talking about their work. We tend to just put our heads down and get on with it. But we don't think very much about the impacts and outcomes, and we don't talk about it very much. And I felt that we really needed to get a better understanding of engineering because, as Sir Abe has already said, everything around us, which is not nature, has been engineered, and engineering is involved in every aspect of our lives. And we cannot have a modern nation without engineering. But we need to convey and communicate this. And I was convinced that such a day would actually help us to do this. And I'm so pleased that not only did we get unanimous support from UNESCO, but the world has taken it on its own to celebrate this. This year, we have more than 90 events around the world on every continent, and it is growing from year to year.
Wow, that's amazing. 90 celebrations all over the world. And that's such a very exciting thought to think about that at this day, on this day, 90 countries are celebrating World Engineering Day. That's fascinating. So I think there are more questions from our viewers. So this time it's for Engineer Monsada. This is the second year PTC is celebrating this event. What are your hopes for the Filipino engineering community that can be made possible by celebrating this event?
Well, there are actually several events happening today, this week, on World Engineering Day. And I'm very happy that, of course, Manila Water and the DOST as well as PTC, configured this event. And of course, I'm very, very happy that Dr. Marlene Kanga, a friend of ours, graced this occasion. And you notice she was the one who originated even the logo. It's my first time to hear that you were the one who designed the logo. And I'm really hoping that with all this, presentations that we will be hearing, not only from us, not only from Dr. Marlene, but from the other guests who are, specialists in their own rights, who have been, awardees in our Prize for Engineering Excellence, that young engineers or even young students who are still, in their teens will appreciate the works of engineers and, of course, engineering as a profession, that they will eventually choose to become and eventually practice as engineers. And that's my, that's our, advocacy, that there should be more engineers, more lady engineers, because, although while I saw it in our university that we now have about 54% lady engineering students, but I think we need more of them in actual field practice. So I think that's we want to see. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Engineer Monsada, and I completely agree. So all the ladies out there, please join us in the engineering bandwagon because we need more engineers like Dr. Kanga over here who, we need more engineers to solve problems in the world and to make it a better place. I myself, I'm not an engineer, but I'm the daughter of an engineer. So engineering is also close to my heart. And I see how, engineers really think of solutions. And Dr. Kanga's right. Engineers tend to be quiet about their ideas. And once they solve problems, they're just, they just want to get to the solution and do it. And we need this day, this kind of celebration, so that everybody gets to hear what engineering really is and how important it is for our modern world. All right, so do we have another question? All right, so we have one from Paul Edward Acosta. So he is on Facebook and he is asking, what is the biggest challenge for engineers in achieving sustainability? Maybe Dr. Kanga can go first.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Jill, very much for this question. I'll answer this question in relation specifically to water because it's a very broad question. And I am on the board of directors of Sydney Water, and we are really pushing for sustainable water development. But there are many barriers, and they are not technology barriers. We have the technology to do a lot of amazing things, and we continually innovate. But the barriers are really political, economic, and social. So, for example, in Australia, we are a dry continent, but there's not much recycling of water. And I'm committed to ensuring that we do reuse and recycle water rather than wastefully use water once and send it out to the ocean. This is a key to sustainability, and it's not a matter of technology. We know how to do it, but it really is a matter of convincing people to use that recycled water. And again, this is part of the communication that engineers must do. We must transform complex technical issues into simple language that people can relate to and understand to make that transformation. We can't do it ourselves. We have to do it with the community. And to engage with the community, we need something like World Engineering Day.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Kanga. So it's so important to communicate, to engage communities and individuals, and because there are a lot of factors that play into sustainable development. It's not just one easy solution. So we need to engage everyone, and that's such an important point, Dr. Kanga, to tell everyone to recycle water. So there's a question now from Navi from YouTube. She's asking, in the 2030 Principles for Actions, number 8, develop professional competency pathways. What are the current developments in the Philippines? Thank you. So this is perfect for Engineer Monsada. Okay, so Engineer Monsada. So again, the question is, in the 2030 Principles for Actions, number 8, develop professional competency pathways. What are the current developments in the Philippines? Thank you. Okay, I think we're just having a technical problem with Engineer Monsada's internet connection. So Dr. Kanga, maybe you have
Yes.
any on this question?
Yes, I'll answer that if I may, while we wait for the connection to come back. So the professional competency pathways are defined by the International Engineering Alliance. These are international benchmarks and as to what is required. And in summary, what is required is for an engineer to take on continuous professional development after graduation. There are specified numbers of hours in each jurisdiction. For example, in Australia, it's a minimum of 50. There's also some requirements for work experience, for operating independently, to display, to show how you exercise judgment when you're making decisions, to work ethically. There's a code of ethics. And more importantly, now with the recent review, is to implement the elements of sustainable development to consider in the outcomes of your projects. So these are the areas for competencies, and each jurisdiction, for example, Philippines Technological Council, will have their specific requirements, which are aligned with national priorities, culture, and systems.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Kanga, for explaining that so well. So we need these competencies to continue to develop our engineers and to make sure that we are taking care of our planet. So, Engineer Monsada, would you like to add something to that? So, Engineer Monsada, are you still with us? Okay, I think he's still having internet connection problems. So maybe we can just flash the next question. So here's one from Daniel Ann from YouTube. Hi, Engineer Monsada. So would you like to say anything, sir, for the last question?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead, Engineer Monsada.
Yes, you were talking, Dr. Kanga was talking about the competence.
Right.
Graduate attributes. PC has been of these competencies and the graduate attributes, and as she has stated in her 2022
Engineer Monsada, we couldn't hear you, sir. Engineer Monsada. Okay, go ahead po.
Sorry. Yes.
It's okay, sir.
We are very much involved there. Yes. Hello.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Yes, we
Go
are.
ahead.
Yes, we are very much involved. We are very much involved in the review of the graduate attributes. And in fact, after this, tomorrow we will have a meeting again to be able to reach out to all our engineers and talk about graduate attributes and competence.
Okay. All right. I think Engineer Monsada is trying to say that they're having a meeting tomorrow, no, to meet all of the Filipino engineers, so that.
Yes.
Go ahead, Engineer Monsada.
We are bringing to them the changes.
Okay. Okay, I think
In the attributes.
Yeah, if I might just
Go ahead, Dr.
comment. So PTC has had a consultation webinar on the graduate attributes and have made contribution and commentary. I think that is what President Fred Monsada is trying to communicate. And so they have been an important contributor to this process. PTC is in a unique position because they are national member of the World Federation as well as a provisional signatory of the International Engineering Alliance, which has the governance on these international benchmarks. So being part of both organizations, they have a very important, PTC is very important in making this contribution and is doing so. So we're very appreciative of that. And these contributions have definitely been taken into account in the review. So when we have the new benchmark approved, hopefully in June 2021, these inputs will have been added value to it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Kanga, for that. So I'm glad to know that the Philippine Technological Council has been contributing a lot to the World Federation of Engineering. All right. So we have another question from YouTube from Daniel Ann. What contributions have we done to the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic or in the development of vaccines? So do you have anything to say about this? Engineer Monsada? All right. I think, okay, Dr. Kanga, do you have anything to say on this front?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, President Monsada.
Yes. Yes, we have different members of our different organizations participating. PTC as a body, well, we don't have a program, but for our 13 engineering professional organizations. They have specific groups working, helping in the pandemic. I think one of our awardees, Dr. Francis Oy, has been working on this, what do you call this, several of these, and of course our national president, former national president of ICEP, or in developing the prevention of COVID as well as treatment of COVID patients.
All right.
These
So
are examples of works that are hello.
all right. So I think what Engineer Monsada is trying to say is that each engineering organization in the Philippines is doing its own contribution to the fight against COVID-19. So, Dr. Kanga, any words to add to what Engineer Monsada said?
Yes, I just wanted to add that globally, engineers have done a huge amount of innovation in the last 12 months to fight against COVID. From, for example, artificial intelligence to analyze the molecules which are suitable for vaccines, to advanced manufacturing and 3D printing, to making masks and facial shields, to protect, especially to protect medical staff in the early days of the pandemic when quick systems needed. And right now, engineers are required for the refrigeration systems for distribution of vaccines at minus 70 degrees centigrade. This needs a lot of innovation. The logistics, distribution, and transportation of these vaccines globally to vaccinate every single person on earth. This has never been done before. And we're doing this in record time as well. We're in a great rush to do this as soon as possible. So engineers are needed like never before in the pandemic. It's not just the medical, it's the engineering and the science, I have to say, that has gone hand in hand to solve this problem and combat this issue.
That's right, Dr. Kanga. This is such an unparalleled situation, and engineers are really at the forefront, no? Alongside our medical frontliners who are there fighting this pandemic through these solutions so that we can bring the vaccine safely to each individual so they can all be safe. So at this point, that is the last question for this segment. So thank you very much. So we will just be sharing all the questions that were posted on the comment section, and we will be sharing these questions to our speakers, to Engineer Monsada and Dr. Kanga. So thank you very much once again, and we are truly honored that you have graced our event today. So happy World Engineering, Dr. Kanga and Engineer Monsada.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and happy World Engineering Day.
Thank you, Dr. Kanga. Thank you, Engineer Monsada. So before we proceed to the next segment of our program, I would like to encourage all our viewers to listen attentively to the following speakers. Why? Because as mentioned in our Facebook announcements, quizzes will be flashed after each speaker will allow you to win. Quizzes will be flashed after each speaker, and this will allow you to win amazing prizes from our generous sponsors, IMI, Globe, and Manila Water Foundation. So without further ado, let me introduce to you our first speaker for today's Engineering Expert Talks. He is a civil engineer by profession who attained his degree in engineering from the University of the Philippines, Diliman. He also received his Master of Engineering in Environmental Engineering from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He started his career in Manila Water as Headline Project Delivery Manager and is now the Group Director of the Corporate Project Management Group. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Engineer Robert Boogs Baffrey.
Hi Jill. Thanks for the introduction. Hi everybody. Good afternoon. Happy World Engineering Day. Congratulations to the Manila Water Foundation for continuing to really not only put this event together, but continuing to espouse and really support Filipino engineers. I feel very privileged and humbled to be part of the panel in this particular event. So welcome and happy World Engineering Day. If we could please flash my slides. So I'm excited to present to you today one of our key projects at Manila Water, the Novaliches-Balara Aqueduct number 4. I'll call it NBAQ4 from this point on. But before I get to the meat of the presentation, I thought it would be, since it's World Engineering Day, good to reflect on how engineering is in my own life in kind of a funny way. So next slide, please. One thing that continues to happen to me since I've been an engineer now for over 20 years is that every Christmas, without fail, somebody always gives me a t-shirt that has a funny engineering saying on it, either a friend or family. If you're wondering why my kids, these are my kids in the picture, why they're modeling my shirts, it's because since the pandemic happened last year, I haven't been able to fit in my shirts. Long story behind that. But I get shirts like engineer solving problems you didn't know you had in ways you can't understand. I thought it was just very funny that people continue to send me those. But on another note, growing up, next slide, please. Growing up, every time there was something wrong in the house, I've always wanted to be an engineer, and every time there's something wrong in the house, my mom, regardless if it was within my field of expertise, would always ask me to fix it. And she would always say, ayusin mo nga yan, engineer ka naman, di ba? Or in English, can you fix this? You're an engineer, right? And I don't mean that to be negative. I mean that in a positive way, because it allowed me to kind of reflect on what we've discussed here today, that engineers continue to be perceived and seen by even our close relatives as people who solve problems. And I feel that should be embraced and celebrated as well. Okay, so on to the main part of the presentation. What is, ano yung aayusin natin? What is a problem that we are solving in this particular project? The issue here is that we have, I won't go into too much detail, is that we have 3 existing aqueducts between the La Mesa Reservoir and our Balara treatment plants. And you can see these here, the Balara treatment plants are the structures in red. And we get our raw water effectively from La Mesa before treating it at Balara. And Balara serves about 80% of the population of the east zone of Metro Manila, or about 6 million plus people. Next slide, please. The issue we have here is that the youngest of the 3 is already 50 years old. So nearing or a little bit over its service life, built in 1968, and the oldest being built in 1929. So given that these are all, and they're all operating at capacity, these are all operating at the capacities we need to continue to supply water. So obviously, we need to make sure these aqueducts are in good condition. Next slide, please. So what is the first solution? Well, it would be, let's fix these aqueducts and make sure these are modernized and make sure these are reliable. The issue here in the next slide is that as these are old structures and over time have been built under other infrastructure, they're very hard to access and almost impossible to rehabilitate without having to shut them down, which is something we can't do. So the next solution is, on the next slide, is that let's make a new tunnel. So let's make a 4th tunnel, NBAQ4, to basically allow us the reliability to be able to rehabilitate the old tunnels. Problem here, though, is that we can't dig a new tunnel because obviously we still have the problem on the right, the excessive traffic and infrastructure above ground. So the next version of the solution is, let's make a new tunnel by using tunnel boring technology. I think you have to click it once to show this next part. By using tunnel boring technology. So nothing above ground, and we're going to drill through the ground to create the 4th tunnel. The concern we have here in the next slide is that normally in tunnel boring, you want to get from point A to point B in a straight line. Our laws dictate we have to follow the road alignment, which means that in this particular case, for the tunnel to come from Balara to the La Mesa Reservoir, it has to make 3 turns along Katipunan, Commonwealth, and eventually Commonwealth to La Mesa, which is quite difficult. So we had to find, and the next iteration of the solution, we had to find a tunnel boring technology, please click, that basically was capable of turning with a tight radius to be able to navigate these turns and continue to operate under roads. But the last challenge is that we had to go quite deep to be able to access the La Mesa Reservoir at a particular depth that's safe. we have to carry that depth all the way back, and we have to launch the tunnel boring machine in a very deep shaft. So the final part of the solution is that we had to basically install, one click, a 45-meter deep, 9-meter diameter launch shaft. So that's our solution. I just wanted to take you step by step. This is the project. It's the goal of a 7.3 kilometer, 3.1 meter diameter aqueduct from the Balara treatment plants. It's actually from La Mesa to the Balara treatment plants, but we're starting here in Balara and going up towards La Mesa, and really delivered through a tunnel boring machine. You might be getting sick of my voice, so in the next slide, we decided to make things simpler by showing you a quick video of what this overall tunnel looks like. So please play the video. Thank you. I can actually talk through the video probably. So this is the actual, since there's no music, the tunnel alignment as it goes from here in Balara up on Commonwealth Avenue. You're seeing it traverse Commonwealth right now. And very soon it'll make a right turn towards the La Mesa Reservoir. And you'll see the intake structure we're building there as well. There you go. So next slide, please. So that video basically did my job for me. But let me take you through the key components of this particular very challenging and innovative project. So this is the baby of our project, the star of the show, the tunnel boring machine. And her name is Dalisay. And I thought there was a very deep meaning behind this because Dalisay means pure, I believe, or clean. But it turns out we had quick trivia. We had a contest to name it, which is, I think, a tradition in the tunnel boring industry. And I'm sorry, can you go back? Is a tradition in the tunnel boring industry. And evidently, the show of Coco Martin, ang Provinciano, was showing. So I think his last name there was Dalisay, and that's the name of our machine now. So Dalisay right now is under Commonwealth, headed towards La Mesa. But this is really the center of the technology. Okay, next slide, please. Hope I'm not going too long. But okay, so the first challenging part was designing the access or the launch shaft. No? So we had to basically dig a 45-meter, 9-meter diameter hole, for lack of a better term, which was really erected through the implementation installation of poles, 1.2 and 1.5 meters in diameter, to create the circumference of the hole, and then basically excavating after that. And at the very bottom, we had to do a mined tunnel to be able to set up the tunnel boring machine underground. And this is all done very precisely and with utilities as well. Next slide. So this next picture, of course, is lowering of the actual pieces of the tunnel boring machine into the mined shaft, and this is not just one piece of equipment. This is a total of 110 meters in length, and had to be assembled in a particular order and in the right condition. So very accurate work as well. So after that, you launch the tunnel boring machine, and you can see that, I think, in a quick rendering in the following slide. Oh, sorry. Please pause there. So basically, the way the machine works is that it's the earth pressure balanced tunnel boring machine, which basically is fit for purpose given the geotechnical due diligence we did here. But what it does as it drills or bores through the ground is that it takes all of the debris and conveys it back towards the access shaft. But what's good here is that as it goes through, it automatically installs the tank lining, and then we actually grout the lining outside the tank lining so that it has even a tighter seal and more structural integrity. But this is really the heart of the overall operation. And like I said, it's 110 meters long and capable of an 80-meter turning radius. So I think we can show the rendering of what this actually looks like on the next slide. But maybe fast forward to the end so that we save some time. Thank you. So this is just a picture of what it looks like. This isn't the same one, but technically it's doing the same thing. You know, it moves slowly, obviously, pushing earth and conveying it back, towards the access shaft. And again, maintaining pressure, operating under difficult conditions. And of course, some of these areas are waterlogged as well. So it's quite a very complex technology. Okay, next slide. Last few slides. One thing I just wanted to mention is that, as I mentioned, the tunnel boring machine goes through the ground and it actually installs the tunnel itself as it goes through. As it digs, it installs the tunnel itself through watertight segments. And this is in itself a supply chain activity. These are manufactured off-site, have to be done on time with adequate supply, because at no time do you want the tunnel boring machine to stop while it's underground for an extended period of time. Okay, next slide. Last couple of slides. So the next challenging part of this is that where does the tunnel boring machine exit? And it exits in the La Mesa Reservoir, underneath the La Mesa Reservoir. So right now, para abangan siya, we have to also implement the actual intake towers. It's a brand new structure, brand new bridge, similar to the launch shaft, but this time you're erecting an intake tower in the middle of La Mesa Reservoir using a barge to do so. And this has to be done almost pinpoint. Us engineers love precision. This has to be done so precisely that the actual tunnel boring machine has to arrive at the correct time and actually intersect this structure at the right exact location for the whole project to work. So we're very excited that hopefully, I think the plan is this year that this is going to happen. And I think we have another picture or video to kind of show that from another perspective, but we'll only play a couple of seconds to give you a feel for the efforts on this side of the project as well. Okay, so this is, as you see there, the barge and the bridge, and of course the intake tower that's being constructed itself. So the last slide, couple of slides, is where are we now? And the answer is that we're at about 5 kilometers, still under Commonwealth, 5 kilometers out of the 7 kilometers completed, soon to make the right turn to La Mesa Reservoir. And you can see underneath on the lower right, a picture of what the tunnel actually looks like and the utilities that have to be installed as we go along and continue to drill here. So far, so good. There's been a lot that's gone on behind this project. I haven't even discussed what it looks like on the downstream side as we interface with the other infrastructure in our existing treatment plants. But my second to the last slide is that, engineering is really one thing, but it's really collaboration and synergy across different expertise that makes a project successful. So we are fortunate to have a consortium partner here that is really multifaceted experts. I asked Sir Alan, by the way, is in this picture. He's the gentleman in the middle wearing white. And he's actually our senior project manager. And I asked him for some information about kind of the different ethnicities and nationalities working. And I think it was a paragraph long in terms of, there's Italian, German, Chinese, Filipinos, obviously, Chileans. It was really an international, British, of course, an effort across the board in terms of different expertise within Manila Water as well to make the project successful. And that's one thing. You may have the right technology, but until you kind of have a meeting of the minds and collaborate properly and bring something to the table, these sustainable solutions will be difficult to implement. So I think, and then we have one more slide. And this slide, of course, we've done this under the oversight and in partnership with our regulators, the MWSS. And this is just a picture to give you a feel for the size of this machine. I think earlier on in the picture, it doesn't look that big, but you can see here how massive of a machine it is. And you can see here the cutter head of the machine. And finally, I think, I hope I didn't go too far over the time, but I just wanted to say that if you recall in my earlier slides, the way it was phrased was, ayusin mo nga yan, engineer ka naman, diba? But my challenge to the engineers, my fellow engineers that are part of this webinar, is to flip that particular saying and instead say na, aayusin ko yan kasi engineer ako. So thank you very much. And again, I'm really happy to have been a part of this webinar, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the session. Thanks very much. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Sir Boogs. You know, I totally enjoyed that presentation, even though I'm not an engineer and I'm not even going to attempt to comment on that technology because I'm not an engineer. But it's so amazing to see such an amazing technology that had a lot of meeting of minds, of engineering expertise and collaboration to make it work, to make that drop of water fall from the tap so that we can drink clean water. And it's such an amazing project. And thank you so much, Sir Boogs, for sharing that with us. So as mentioned earlier, we will now have a quiz. I hope you all listened intently because it's now that time to answer a question. So we're privileged today because attendees will be able to answer the question and get a chance to win a Globe at Home prepaid Wi-Fi modem and 300 pesos worth of data from our generous sponsors, IMI and Globe. To join, simply type the correct answer in the comment section of this broadcast on Facebook or YouTube. Those who get the correct answer will be entitled to join the raffle. So winners will be announced at the very end of the webinar, so stick around. So for our first question, fill in the blank. The blank project of Manila Water entails the construction of a fourth aqueduct from the La Mesa Reservoir to the Balara Treatment Plants 1 and 2 to improve the reliability and security of the raw water transmission system. So all you have to do is type in the answer and by filling in the blank. All right, so it's now flashed on the screen. There you go. So let me just move to my right so you can see it well. All right, so I hope you are now typing in your answers. And there you go. I'm seeing a lot of correct answers. So congratulations for listening to the presentation. So, all right, so let's now reveal the answer. And the correct answer is Novaliches Balara Aqueduct 4 or NBAQ4 project. So congratulations to all those who answered correctly. You have a chance to win and just wait for the announcement at the very end of the webinar. All right. So let's proceed with our next speaker. I hope you had fun and you learned a lot from Sir Boogs' presentation. So our next speaker led and worked on numerous game-changing programs and projects in the fields of land surveying, remote sensing and geographic information system, environmental monitoring, and disaster risk assessment and management. One of these is the disaster risk assessment, exposure, and mitigation light ranging and detection technology, or what we call DREAM LiDAR, which was recognized as the biggest single project that a research unit in the entire University of the Philippines system has ever undertaken. This project addressed and helped mitigate the effects of flooding disasters in the country by producing accurate national terrain elevation maps and training highly skilled LiDAR and flood mapping experts all over the country. These initiatives have been proven essential in the country's resource monitoring and management and in various government agencies' decision-making processes for policy formulation. For 22 years, he has shared his expertise in the Department of Geodetic Engineering, College of Engineering of the University of the Philippines, Diliman, as a research fellow, research affiliate, teaching faculty, department chair, and professional chair. He is also an awardee of the maiden year of the MWF Prize for Engineering Excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, let us watch the recorded video of the Executive Director of the Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, and Emerging Technology Research and Development of DOST, Dr. Enrico Paringit.
Pleasant good afternoon to all. It is with great pleasure for the Department of Science and Technology, Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, and Emerging Technology Research and Development to be with everyone as we mark the World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development. My deepest gratitude goes to the Manila Water Foundation for their generosity in organizing and hosting this occasion in partnership with the Philippine Technology Council and the DOST. First, I'd like to give you a bit of introduction of who we are and what we do. We are the PCIEERD, what we otherwise call as the Innovation Council. So it's one of the agencies of DOST in charge of the formulation of policies, plans, and programs, as well as in the implementation of strategies in the industry, energy, and emerging technology sectors through several R&D interventions. We have a five-fold mandate, but we're mainly known as a funding agency for various research and development projects being undertaken by our partners, researchers, innovators, and scientists. But we also provide support for Filipino researchers to become more productive through institutional and capacity building. We also provide information to various government agencies as well as the public on all aspects of technology development, particularly those that have been developed by our researchers and engineers. And then we also have support for technology transfer and commercialization in keeping with our mandate under the Innovative Startup Act. And lastly, we provide support for policy development as we analyze, review, and formulate various policies that come our way, as well as the recommending policies also for the development of priority sectors under PCIEERD. So what are these priority sectors? Our sectoral coverage is actually wide and varied. We provide R&D support to 21 different sectors and fields categorized as either coming from industry, energy, emerging technology, and special concerns. To make sure that all of our efforts and initiatives are utilized in the areas of maximum benefit for all Filipinos, we subscribe to the Harmonized National Research R&D Research and Development Agenda. In that agenda, we articulated our national priorities, which actually serves as a guide for public investments in R&D, while ensuring a cohesive convergence and integration of research and development efforts towards our goal of uplifting the lives of Filipinos. So we all know for a fact that engineers are playing a key role in making sure innovations remains vibrant, active, and adaptive to the challenge of the times. Let me just give you an update on the projects and plans under this HNRDA, specifically on the sectors which we support. I hope this also interests you. You know, as I mentioned, 2020 has been a challenge year, particularly because we have COVID-19. But our engineers did not back down. They were continued to offer solutions and responded to these needs, and in fact rose to the challenges of COVID-19. For example, one of our startups that we supported, who was actually producing homing devices for vessels, not for boats, pivoted or shifted to design and create specimen collection booths. We also have engineers rising up to the challenges of making sure that we have adequate resources to address our current challenges in COVID-19. We thought that the doctors thought that we would need a lot of ventilators to aid our patients suffering from COVID-19. And so we called out for proposals to that will be able to design an automated emergency ventilator. Actually a working prototype. And 3 of them have responded. One was a startup, the second one was a TIP, Technological Institute of the Philippines, and the other one was from Don Bosco. We also supported the project on strengthening the DOST Regional Meteorology Laboratory of DOST Region 3. The purpose of this was to be responsive in the calibration requirements both in the urban areas as well as in the countryside, where they are necessary for the industry to be more competitive for the attainment of better quality of life. Essentially, what this does is to test and act as a calibration service for key industries to jumpstart our bid towards transitioning the country into the 4th Industrial Revolution or Industry 4.0. We also supported the establishment of the Advanced Mechatronics, Robotics, and Industry Automation Laboratory, or AMERIAL. This is in support of the metals engineering industry, being spearheaded by our DOST MIRDC. It aims to be the national facility for capability development in field mechatronics and robotics as applied to industry automation. The goal is to put a facility that will enable the training of industry workforce in modern, globally competitive automation for traditional manufacturing in industrial practices using modern smart technology. We also funded the collaboration by through this project called Metrology and PDEA, Correct Quantity and Right Precision. This was initiated by our DOST Industrial Technology Development Institute and PDEA, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, with which provides a technical training, calibration kits, proficiency testing, and consultation. They have now a protocol for weighing samples and intermediate checking of weighing instruments and setting of tolerances appropriate to the quantity of weighing, which later on can be submitted to the Dangerous Drugs Board for recognition and implementation. We're quite happy that we know of Manila Water, of course, the company with which the Manila Water Foundation is affiliated with, had engaged with Asian Institute of Management to come up with a collaborative research on enhanced forecasting model for complex water supply systems in the East Service area of Metro Manila. This model serves as a tool in the day-to-day operations of MWC for optimization of water supply distribution in the Manila East Zone. In the field of infrastructure, our researchers remain at the forefront of innovation in keeping our vital infrastructure installations and utilities in tip-top shape. For example, this infrastructure monitoring petrography was implemented to use petrography techniques to provide in-depth analysis and assessment of health and health of concrete used in the construction of roads, bridges, and buildings. What we do for infrastructure, we also do for the built environment, particularly for vertical development. We want to keep them safe and livable. We supported the research work being done by the Mapua Institute of Technology, and then later on transitioned into a startup. It's now this is actually our salute to our researchers who have braved the world of entrepreneurship to make their technologies accessible to the public at large. So one example of that is, of course, this Azure. And this is a economical and hassle-free system that allows building owners or managers to comply with the implementing rules and regulations for earthquake recording, for setting up earthquake recording instruments in key buildings. For transportation, we are also not too far behind in the use of technology to make our transportation a little bit more intelligent. Our researchers are in fact harnessing the power of data and artificial intelligence to analyze, to capture and analyze traffic conditions. This Titan is an AI-based system that monitors vehicular and pedestrian activities from the vantage point of regular traffic surveillance cameras. So it's not possible for us to actually count vehicles in the roads and also people walking on pedestrians at various intersections of various installations in the metropolis. Engineers are always in search of not only making and building things right, it also has to be better. In partnership with the DPWH Bureau of Research and Standards, the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, transformed PET bottles, used tires, and natural rubber clump as alternate asphalt additives that will improve the mechanical properties of asphalt paved roads. We also, while we innovate on land, we also innovate in water. After all, we're an archipelagic country. Our water transportation should also be safe and resilient. So Dr. Nato Santos' team at De La Salle University and iNano Solutions offered this marine nanocoat. It's an anti-barnacle, anti-corrosion, and anti-UV coating material for ships and other floating marine structures. In the field of electronics, our engineers also provide solutions at an entrepreneurial level. SmartFax, Data Solutions, is a silicon IP and design services founded by experienced IC and embedded systems design engineers. What they do is to offer digital IC design services from RTL design and logic synthesis to physical implementation, and they specialize in hardware design. We are slowly transitioning to a low carbon economy. We have a good market now for e-vehicles, but how do we power them and for how long? Charging time has been an issue. So our colleagues at the Electrical and Electronics Engineering Institute of UP came up with this solution called CHARM. No? So it's a fast, safe, and reliable way to charge your system, which can actually cut the charging time to as fast as 1/7 of the time for conventional charging. Innovations and computing breakthroughs can also be helpful to the environmental cause. This is one of our goals addressing the Sustainable Development Goals. Fish Eye is a semi-automated video camera-based fish sensor system that provides fish count, no? Population density, and distribution. It can even identify what type of fish. No? And this is a good tool for monitoring marine protected areas and for quantifying environmental impact of projects on marine and island waters. One of the goals of SDG is access, of course, to educational tools that will help learning more conducive, especially now at this time of pandemic. So this smart surface is a complete electronic system that can be attached to a wide variety of surface for interactive learning experience. So another innovation along this field is XLIPAD. So XLIPAD is a high-tech autonomous device company that focuses on R&D of autonomous systems for commercial and educational purposes. We'd also like to especially mention that we recently closed the stand call for proposals. No? The stand calls for the Science, Technology, and Action Nexus for Development, which we partnered with the UK Research and Innovation Agency, or UKRI, and the Japan Science and Technology Agency of Japan. In the coming years, we have laid down some of the research priorities which we thought will move us further forward on food and nutrition, countryside development, competitive industry, delivery of social services, intelligent transportation, renewable energy, and energy storage solutions, and human security. I shall not go through each one of them, but it is to say that we have made these priorities happen in light of our engagement with key stakeholders in industry, with government, as well as consulting continuously with our researchers to make our priorities more attuned to the needs of our country as we move to a more competitive, fast recovering mode. So you may ask, how are our engineers contributing all of these SDGs? As you have seen in our lineup of projects that have been supported, that are continuously being supported, and to be supported in the future, engineers are spurring innovations. Innovation is second nature to engineers. Engineers have also built things to make innovation happen. This will not happen. These innovations will not happen by accident. There has to be infrastructure, there has to be facilities, there has to be equipment that will make this happen, and engineers pave the way. Engineers are also endless fountains of solutions. Engineers provide solutions to pressing problems of our times. And thus, engineers respond well to current and emerging challenges such as those we faced in COVID-19. We need more Filipino engineers who can innovate, who can contribute to our thriving economy to make it fast recovering, robust, and competitive. And we believe by partnering, we will be able to convert ideas into reality, especially those that are thought of by our engineers. And that's what we're here for. We want to be your partner in innovation. We will open our more opportunities to fortify the country's science and technology community by supporting R&D endeavors. So let's work together and take urgent actions to secure the future of present and next generations by pursuing discoveries and breakthroughs with greater energy and exploring opportunities to strengthen the country's innovation ecosystem and make innovation work for the people. So we wish again everyone a successful World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development. Congratulations po and mabuhay tayo.
Thank you so much, Dr. Paringit. And it's so wonderful to hear that you have been supporting our Filipino engineers convert ideas to reality. So they truly are our partner for innovation. So calling out to all Filipino engineers, if you need support in R&D or in financing, and if your projects are aligned with the research priorities this year, go ahead and visit their website and see how you can partner for innovation. All right, so as promised, we will have another pop quiz where everyone can win amazing prizes. So I hope you were able to listen very well. So here's the question. Supply the missing words. DOST-PCIEERD, I hope I pronounced that well, stands for Department of Science and Technology, Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, and blank Research and Development. All right, so let me move here so you can see the missing words. So just fill in those blanks. All right, again, DOST-PCIEERD stands for Department of Science and Technology, Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, and blank Research and Development. All right, so I can see some people typing in their answers, and I think all of you are correct. So just a quick reminder that we are drawing our winners through random selection. All right, so the correct answer for pop quiz number 2 is emerging technology. So again, all of our viewers, I think if I'm not mistaken, had it correctly. So great job, guys. Keep it up. So now let's move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is recognized for her important contributions in the field of engineering. She is perhaps the most prolific among the Filipina chemical engineers today. Her professional career in R&D led to her appointment as Cabinet Assistant Secretary and for a short period acting under Secretary of the Department of Science and Technology. She is a former member and chair of the Board of Chemical Engineers, Professional Regulation Commission, and was the chartered president of the Philippine Technological Council and chartered chairperson of the ASEAN Federation of Engineering Organizations. Her numerous awards include, among others, the 2019 Engr WFEO Woman in Engineering Award by the World Federation of Engineering Organizations. Without further ado, let us all welcome the founding president and senior advisor of the Philippine Technological Council, Dr. Lydia Tansinsin. Dr. Tansinsin seems to be having some technical problems. So, all right. So while we wait for Dr. Tansinsin, are you all excited for the next pop quiz? All right. So maybe we can just move on to the next pop quiz as I see that we are having technical difficulties with her internet connection. All right. So here is the next question. Hold on. All right, so pop quiz number 3. So I just mentioned this a while ago, so I hope you were listening. Dr. Lydia Tansinsin received the Engr WFEO Woman in Engineering Award in 2019. So is it true or false? All right, so let me see your answers on the chat box. Sorry, on the comment section. All right. Many of you are answering true. All right. So let me see the correct answer. So the correct answer is true. Dr. Tansinsin received the award in 2019, the WFEO GRI Women in Engineering Award, and this is awarded every year. This award recognizes women engineers who have shown professional excellence and impact in their work and are role models and leaders in their field. So thank you all who answered. So again, winners will be announced at the end of the webinar, so better stick around, and we do random selection in choosing our winners. All right, so while we wait for Dr. Tansinsin, okay, is Dr. Tansinsin ready? All right, so let's all welcome the founding president and senior advisor of the Philippine Technological Council, Dr. Lydia Tansinsin. Dr. Tansinsin, are you there? All right, so maybe we can go back to Dr. Tansinsin as we try to fix her internet connection problems. So, oh, there you go. Dr.
Can you
Lydia?
hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you very well.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you very well, but your video is now turned off. Can you turn it on again, ma'am?
Nandito na ako eh. I don't know, bakit hindi ako naririnig? Can you hear me, Jill?
Yes,
Jill,
yes,
can you hear
Dr.
me?
Lydia. Yes, po, we can hear you very clearly. We cannot see you though. There, we can see you right now, Dr. Lydia, but can you please unmute your microphone so we can hear you? Dr. Lydia, are you there? I think her internet connection is lagging, so her connection is intermittent right now. So as we try to fix that one, we'll turn you over to our next speaker. So our next speaker is a young and I must say a very promising engineer. He is from the Mapua University with a background on electrical engineering, and recently he and his invention, AuREUS, or the Aurora Renewable Energy and UNV Sequestration, won the first ever James Dyson Award for Sustainability. To share more about this technology and how the role of the youth in engineering is, let us all welcome Mr. Carvey Maigue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Carvey Ehren, or Maigue, inventor of AuREUS. And maybe just a little background as well. So I am an electrical engineering student from Mapua University. And actually, I have been a student for 10 years. So to any student, engineering student, that is having some hard time right now, tiwala lang, kaya. They tend to question me why. Why do I still try to pursue engineering? And I think, for me, there's something special when you are called as an engineer or when you are bestowed that title. Kasi it means that the people, the safety of the people around you, the lives of the people around you, ay pwedeng ipagkatiwala sa'yo. You're something that's reliable, something that would only pursue for the best and the betterment of these people. So more than siguro yung prestige niya, I really look forward to have that title to showcase the world that I am a person who can also help and improve the lives of other people. So if we're having a hard time in our studies, tiwala lang, kaya natin yan, and don't let maybe one or two failing subjects define you, because definitely you're more than that, right? Now, a little background about my invention. So my invention is called AuREUS. It's Aurora Renewable Energy and UV Sequestration System. Now, what it does is it is a metamaterial technology that harvests UV light, converts it into visible light, and then it feeds it to traditional PV technology to produce electricity. Now, the problems that we are aiming to solve to our technology, there's a study that in urban cities where there are large skyscrapers made out of glass. So this is in Hong Kong and Tokyo. there is an increased level of UV, especially in these areas. Kasi yung UV, nagba-bounce off lang siya dun sa mga window. Ultimately, napupunta siya dun sa mga pedestrian, dun sa tao na nasa kalsada. And what happens is there is an increased UV radiation. And as we know, UV radiation is one of the leading cause ng mga different kinds of diseases, cancers, and such. So we are hoping to curb that, especially in an urban environment. Now, we're also hoping that we can take part in uplifting the lives of our farmers who are especially hit by climate-driven typhoon. So, as we know, due to climate change, medyo lumalakas and nagiging mas frequent yung mga bagyo sa atin. And one of the most affected na mga industry is definitely our agricultural and our farming sector. So, what we are hoping is to integrate them, yung waste products nila, bibilin namin sila, and then from there, we can synthesize the particles that we would need for our product, for our invention. So, in that manner, nabibigyan natin sila ng chance na kesa itapon nila yung wastes nila, magagawa natin siya ng value, create value out of the things na ikalulugi nila or iwe-waste lang dahil nga sa typhoons. And another one is definitely we are aiming to create better access to renewable energy. Now, renewable energy technologies is already existing. Marami tayong technology, solar, wind, we also have tidal and such. Pero I think one of the bigger reasons kung bakit hindi siya prevalent ngayon is other than the physical distance, solar farms have to be made on large pieces of land, and they have to go through longer transmission lines to reach the cities. So what happens is medyo tataas yung cost. And then if you are living naman in urban areas, there is just a limited amount of rooftop din na pwede mong installan. So kung building ka, medyo mahirap kasi maliit lang yung horizontal footprint mo pero malaki yung vertical footprint mo. So ngayon, AuREUS aims to provide solution in that gap by allowing these vertical structures, these infrastructures, to become vertical solar farms. So pag in-integrate nila yung AuREUS technology sa walls or sa windows nila, they can harvest UV light and convert it into clean electricity. Now, another thing is that UV is something that tends to bounce around kasi. So, unlike conventional na visible light, pag nasa lilim ka, technically, wala kang visible light. UV naman differs because it bounces around even kahit sa pavement or sa walls. Now, the advantage of capturing UV is hindi natin kailangan na nakatapat yung panels natin direkta sa sunlight. So for a building, we can place or use windows and walls on all four sides and at the same time still generate sufficient electricity. So yun yung isa sa ina-unlock natin na capability for our solar harvesting technologies. Ngayon, what is the inspiration behind the project? Actually, madami. But to encompass them all, nung bata kasi ako, I love to play outdoors, outside. And as I grow older, alam ko na global warming is real. Kasi, dati nakapaglaro pa ako 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the morning, cool breeze and all. Pero ngayon, very impossible na siya mangyari. Then, I realized na, is there something that I can do to help na sana yung naramdaman and naranasan ko dati would still be able to be experienced by my children, by my grandchildren, and the next generation. So that's when I realized that there's something that must be done against climate change. And actually, hindi lang yung inspiration, madami. Yung salamin ko, the very glasses that I'm wearing, it suddenly changed into dark color. So photochromic siya, nag-react siya to sunlight. And then nasa Tagaytay ako, very cloudy, almost rainy, pero nag-react pa din siya. So I thought it's broken. But then that's when I realized it's actually UV that's actually penetrating even on a cloudy and almost rainy na na araw yun. So I realized, why not harvest that? And other things as well, yung lola ko mahilig siya maggawa ng extracts galing sa iba't ibang gulay, which became one of the foundations na ginamit ko to create this technology from vegetable and fruit wastes. And another is actually yung conversion ng UV to visible light is something that I stumbled upon when I am, nung gumigimik ako, gumagala ako sa mga bar, ganun. So, case on point, sometimes it's okay to experience different things, or rather allow yourself to experience a lot of different things. Kasi ultimately, yung cross-pollination, taking idea from one field, applying it sa field mo, and at the same time, other way around naman, it allows us to create something new. It allows us to create new things. And there's a famous saying na sometimes yung experiences natin, they didn't make sense right now. But looking back, it's only when you can trace the dots, you can connect them and realize na dito pala siya pwedeng gamitin. So, definitely a lot of inspirations. Ngayon, for me, always keep an open mind. And kasi yun kasi yung isa sa greatest challenges ko eh. As a student, actually as a part-time working student, so nagkaroon ako ng crossroad. Should I pursue invention or should I pursue my studies and work? So, yun yung thinking ko before I went on with this journey na kailangan ko lang mamili between the two. But then I realized that to be an inventor is not a 9-to-5 job, but rather it's a 24/7 thing. And what do I mean by that? You can definitely be an engineer and be a student and yet be able to invent something. The point is to invent something, kailangan open yung mind mo in different things that happen around you. Kasi pwedeng dun mo makuha yung idea mo. And that's what happened to me. And hopefully, yun yung maging isa sa key takeaway nyo. So, wag kayong matakot or wag nyo i-give up yung dreams nyo to create something, to invent something. I know as aspiring engineers, yun yung isa sa pinaka parang ultimate goal natin to create something that would benefit the world. And I think don't give up on that dream. Pwede siya and mapagko-combine mo yan and from there mabubuo mo something new, something that's innovative. Now, what would be the impact of the youth and the young engineers to our sustainability development goals? Ngayon, what's wonderful kasi about sustainability development goals is that they are very concrete examples. So, if you have the chance, try to look on it, and dun mo ma-realize ano ba yung problems that we are facing right now in a global scale. And what we can do, example, for our case in AuREUS, we are already creating a product that would help our renewable energy needs. Pero along the way, hindi lang pala kami sa product pwede magkaroon ng positive impact and help with our SDG goals. Another one is yung raw materials namin. Why not extract this from wastes? So nakakatulong tayo dun sa pag-conserve natin ng waste. And at the same time, why not take a step further? Why not help yung farmers natin? Another SDG goal, which would also help them, which would allow us to uplift grassroots communities. So sa raw materials, nakakatulong tayo sa SDG goals, sa output nakakatulong tayo sa SDG goals. Another is yung process. So why not create machine, equipment, or processes that is gender agnostic, or even, I should say, educational attainment agnostic, something like that. Ngayon, one of the difficulties kasi of finding a job is if you are not able to finish your school, mahirap. So why not create equipment or processes that would not require very deep expertise, pero something that would make a decent job out of. And that would also help the grassroots communities kasi in that manner, we can uplift their lives kahit limited yung naging schooling or education nila. If this equipment are ready to use, are easy to use, these processes are something that can be easily learned. So we can help them. We can provide jobs to them. So doon, makakreate tayo ng impact. And looking on the long run, what would happen is by giving them the opportunity to earn money with a decent job, masasend nila yung mga anak nila to school, which I think is what we need to break the cycle na because the parents were not able to go to school, yung anak din nila hindi. And it would continue to the further and next generations. Now, what I'm just trying to say is that there are lots of things as engineers where we can penetrate and we can incorporate these SDGs, especially that we are well versed with the STEM subjects. And for me, us engineers are somewhat artists then, except the medium that we use is science. So if we can form science, we can use science, express science in different manners to create something that would make a better world for all of us. I think that would make us really excellent engineers. And for the youth and young engineers, I think the first step that we can definitely do is awareness. So sometimes kasi certain topics of the SDG, example, renewable energies, hindi natin siya masyadong pinag-uusapan eh. Parang masyadong malayo sa akin yan. Hindi ko gamay yan, something like that. So I think we should change that. Kasi the more na napag-uusapan natin these goals, these topics, the more na nagiging normal siya sa buhay natin. And when normal siya sa buhay natin, mas madali natin siyang ma-achieve. Kasi for me, it's not just the product, but it's a synergy between product and people that would really help us attain true sustainability. Kahit maganda yung technology, kahit sobrang promising yung technology, if there are not enough people who would adapt the technology, who would improve the technology, and create an ecosystem for the technology, hindi rin siya mag-work. So it's a joint effort for all of us. And I think the very first, and I think the best way na ginagawa din ng program na to is to create awareness. So dun pa lang, nasa step 1 na tayo. So I hope that I have shared some things na you will find helpful then as well. And yun. So I would end my presentation with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carvey. You are such an inspiring youth. Ayan, tularan natin lahat si Carvey, no? Hindi talaga siya nag-give up, no? He continued the fight. He was very inspired by his desire and his dream to help people and to help the world be a better place through engineering solutions. So keep it up, Carvey. We're looking forward to more solutions from you. So, all right. So now's the time for another pop quiz. So here is the question. You have to provide the correct answer, all right? So Carvey Maigue's technology is commonly known as AuREUS. What does AU or O mean? All right, so go on to the comment section and please type in your answers. Again, the question is, what does AU, the first 2 letters of his invention, mean? All right, so I can see some comments already. Okay, everybody has gotten the answer right. Okay, so the answer is Aurora. So according to NASA, an aurora is a natural, beautiful light show caused by the sun and predominantly seen in high latitude regions. All right, so congratulations to all the viewers who answered correctly. All right. So before I introduce our next speaker, may I please remind our viewers to send their questions through the comment section of this broadcast, either on Facebook or YouTube. Our speakers will answer your queries right after the last presenter. So to move on with our program, let me introduce our last speaker for today's webinar. Or rather, our next speaker for the webinar. He served as a university professor at the University of the Philippines College of Engineering since 1994 and also served as acting director of the Advanced Science and Technology Institute of the Philippine Department of Science and Technology. He was the program head of the Philippine Scientific Earth Observation Microsatellite Program, or PhilMicrosat, that launched the first Philippine-made satellite, the Diwata-1, into space in April 2016. Fun fact, our next speaker also served as our RF wireless consultant for the Integrated Microelectronics Incorporated, one of our co-presenters for today's event. In 2015, he was also named to be among the first awardees of the Manila Water Foundation Prize for Engineering Excellence. So, ladies and gentlemen, the first Director General of the Philippine Space Agency, Dr. Joel Joseph Marciano Jr.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. Good morning. I hope you can hear me. Yes, so may I have my slides flashed now, please? Thank you. So thank you very much to the Manila Water Foundation, the Department of Science and Technology, and the Philippine Technological Council, and the other organizers and sponsors or presenters for the invitation to speak at this seminar marking the 2021 World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development with the theme Engineering for a Healthy Planet. My presentation on behalf of the newly established Philippine Space Agency, or PhilSA, is entitled The Nation Bridged, Uplifted, and Empowered Through Space, Value Creation Through Data Industry and People. Good afternoon to all. Magandang hapon. Thank you. Next slide. So let me first introduce the Philippine Space Agency. The Philippine Republic Act 11363, an act establishing the Philippine Space Development and Utilization Policy and creating the Philippine Space Agency, also known as the Philippine Space Act, was signed on August 8, 2019. It established the PhilSA as the central government agency addressing all national issues and activities related to space science and technology and its applications, or SSTA. The Act provides PhilSA with a mandate to be the primary policy, planning, and coordinating, implementing, and administrative entity of the executive branch of the government for the National Space Program. The framework of the Philippine Space Policy identifies 6 key development areas, or KDAs, for SSTA development. These are national security and development, hazard management and climate studies, space industry capacity building, international cooperation, space education and awareness, and space research and development. The key development areas for SSTA development were formulated in consideration of the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, and various stakeholder consultations. In the Philippines, space technology and its applications are envisioned to support informed decision-making and policy formulation for efficient governance, environmental, natural resources, and disaster risk management towards poverty alleviation and genuine socioeconomic development. The PhilSA is now placed at the forefront of developing and proliferating space science technologies and applications in support of national programs and towards a vision of becoming a spacefaring nation. In recent years, the Philippines has taken significant steps in SSTA with the support of the Department of Science and Technology. This has led to the development, launch, operation, and utilization of the country's own small satellites. Diwata-1 on the left, launched in 2016, Diwata-2 in 2018, that's on the right, and the CubeSat, Maya-1, also in 2018. Diwata-1 and Diwata-2 are the 50-kilogram scientific Earth observation microsatellites, while Maya-1 is a 1-kilogram nanosatellite. These satellites carry cameras for acquiring images of land and water on Earth, as well as radios for command, control, and store and forward of data collected from ground sensors. Diwata-2 also carries an amateur radio unit, which can be used as backup communications at times of emergencies or disasters. By the way, Maya-2, the successor to Maya-1, is already in the International Space Station, and it will be deployed into space orbit soon, perhaps, most likely, within this month. These achievements have enabled the Philippines to join the ranks of countries that not only own and operate satellites, but have also been able to build and develop them. So click on that, please. Now, these satellite development activities are complemented by ground infrastructure, such as the Philippine Earth Data Resource Observation Center, or PEDRO, as well as high-performance computing facilities for the processing of satellite images. These pictures show the PEDRO facilities in Metro Manila, Iloilo, and Davao, which are used to communicate with Philippine satellites for Earth observation and those of other countries that we subscribe to. These space and ground infrastructure equip the Philippines with a capacity to create and add value in space through the generation, processing, analysis, and distribution of vital geospatial information and the creation of competitive industries. We should continue to invest in satellites and ground systems since they are a vital part of a sovereign national information infrastructure. Our satellites and their cameras are currently trained back down towards Earth to gather data about our natural and built environment. Shown in the pictures is our Earth observation microsatellite Diwata-1 passing over our islands. I see Palawan and Mindoro there, and pointing its cameras from 400 kilometers away to areas of interest. With their large geographical footprint, satellites like Diwata-1 and Diwata-2 are able to capture environmental data over a huge spatial scale at once. With more of them in orbit, we can do so at even more regular intervals. The data gathered is transformed into actionable insights so we can make informed and intelligent action here on Earth. Space infrastructure, space data, and space-enabled services help inform policies and decision support systems that can improve our lives. Enabling data-driven and evidence-based policies for promoting digital inclusion, better governance, and a knowledge economy is one way that we create value from space. So the PhilSA is building on these capabilities to create more innovations in space that contribute to creating high-value jobs and to growing our economy. Moving forward, this is reflected in our flagship projects. So in the next few slides, I will show some examples of how these programs relate to engineering for sustainable development by describing how they address the sustainable development goals in the Philippine context. There are certainly many use cases, but I will focus them on water-related issues in this presentation. When we build and deploy satellites, we mobilize data. Sustainable Development Goal 1 calls for an end to poverty in all its manifestations by 2030. Sustainable Development Goal 13 urges us to take action to combat climate change and its impacts. For the Philippine Space Agency, space technologies play a central role in addressing the country's incessant needs to prepare for and respond to natural disasters, which affects the lives of all Filipinos, most especially those in impoverished areas. As a first example, shown in the picture is how we mobilize space data before and after typhoons. By getting satellite images of the areas before and after the typhoon, in this case, Typhoon Ompong that hit northern Luzon in 2018, our computers can do the change detection and determine areas which have been flooded. The output is shown in the map on the bottom right of your screen, where the streaks of blue indicate areas of probable flooding. This information is provided to the Office of Civil Defense and the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council to help arrive at better estimates of the extent of damage from the disaster, allowing us to allocate proper resources for rehabilitation, response, and recovery. Another example is how we have used our algorithms to detect building footprints in a satellite image. That proved especially useful in the case of the 2018 Naga Cebu landslide, where we were able to generate a map that overlaid the building footprints on the image showing the extent of the landslide. That is seen on the leftmost picture. The red blocks or rectangles that you see there are building footprints detected by machine learning and artificial intelligence computational techniques implemented by our teams. This map equipped emergency workers and responders with more actionable information in the rescue and recovery effort by identifying areas where to dig first in the hope of searching for survivors. Shown in the middle and in the right image are the valiant responders holding the maps that were generated by our teams. To an engineer and a scientist, there is perhaps nothing more gratifying than to see our outputs being applied in the real world. In this case, in the form of spaceborne data applied to the heavy task of searching for survivors of a calamitous event. This is an example of an end-to-end effort where our investments in space capabilities, satellites, ground and computing facilities, and people prove valuable in turning around much-needed information in a timely manner in an attempt to save lives and property. Next slide. The Sustainable Goal 6 pursues work to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Space technologies ensure proper water resources management, infrastructure monitoring, and water quality assessment. The turbidity or clarity of water in Manila Bay is one of the indicators studied in this series of satellite images taken by the Philippines Diwata 1 and Diwata 2 between 2018 and 2019, which was before and after a reported rehabilitation effort. The image shows murky waters at the mouth of the Pasig River and in the northern part of the bay, coming from perhaps from agricultural runoff. Those are the red areas in the middle image. Now, monitoring this area at different times of the year can contribute to existing and future studies examining the results of the ongoing Manila Bay rehabilitation efforts. In this use case, we use a time series of satellite images from March 2018 to March 2019 and analyze them using the Normalized Difference Water Index to study the water level in La Mesa Dam. The water features are all extracted from the dam to measure the amount of water in terms of surface area in square meters in the basin. perhaps as a result of the La Nina phenomenon. Now, the data shows the difference of the water between March 2018 and March 2019 changed from 3.08 square kilometers to 1.4 square kilometers, corresponding to a loss of about 45% over a period of 1 year. Now, Sustainable Development Goal 9 seeks to promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization to foster innovation. Building space technologies leads to local know-how transfer and retention that is used to spur local space industry development. Shown in the picture are actual electronics that we have built in our own labs and which are now in space. They are working very well, which means that they now have space heritage. As a consequence, the value or price of these systems have increased exponentially. This know-how and experience will enable the country to build difficult, high reliability products that will not only survive, but can get the mission done, even in the hostile environment of outer space. If we have the tools and discipline to make stuff that work in space, we can make stuff that work in other harsh environments, such as geothermal wells, mines, undersea environments, etc. Essentially in areas where we deploy stuff and forget about them because it will be extremely difficult or impractical to go back and fix them. Such capabilities will be at the core of differentiated and defensible products and services that make up globally competitive industries in a progressive society. Finally, as this is World Engineering Day, let me end with what else? Engineers. When we build systems for space in the upstream and downstream, we also train a skilled manpower that makes up a knowledge workforce. Shown in the picture are Filipino scholars, scientists, and engineers who have taken or are currently taking advanced studies both here and abroad. They are here now and are ready to pay it forward and build great things for the country. They are our ultimate value creators. Being an inherently interdisciplinary endeavor, we need space researchers, scientists, and engineers not only to be good at what they do, that is, to have depth of expertise, but also to be able to have a breadth of skills that branch out and work with other people from other disciplines and backgrounds. We need them to be T-shaped. This involves teamwork, time and project management, design thinking, empathy, and communication. By building so-called T-shaped people and institutions, we can form a strong and broad front with which our country can attack and tackle societal and global scale challenges. This is what our country needs to excel, advance, and to progress. So this ends my presentation. I leave you once again with the vision and mission of the Philippine Space Agency, or PhilSA. The PhilSA envisions a Filipino nation bridged, uplifted, and empowered through the peaceful uses of outer space. And our mission is to promote and sustain a robust Philippine space ecosystem that adds and creates value in space for and from Filipinos and for the world. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marciano, for such an amazing presentation. And I really love that last two lines on your slide, which said space is an interdisciplinary endeavor. And when we build for space, we build T-shaped people and institutions. So T stands for the breadth and depth of a person. So congratulations, Dr. Marciano, to you and your team for such amazing inventions, creating value for space. All right, so to recap Dr. Joa's presentation, here's our last question for the webinar. So you just have to choose the correct answer. Republic Act 11363 is also known as A, Philippine Space Act. Let me move over here. B, Department of Information and Communications Technology Act. Or C, Space Exploration Act. All right, so again, you just need to choose the correct answer. Republic Act 11363 is also known as, is it A, Philippine Space Act, B, Department of Information and Communications Technology Act, and C, Space Exploration Act? All right, so very good. The correct answer is letter A, Philippine Space Act. So thank you very much to all who participated in our last pop quiz. Please stay tuned as we will announce the winners at the very end of the program. All right, so I heard that Dr. Tansinsin's internet connection has been fixed. So again, without further ado, Let us all welcome the founding president and senior advisor of the Philippine Technological Council and the 2019 GRI WFEO Woman in Engineering awardee, Dr. Lydia Tansinsin.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can
Dr. Lydia, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Good afternoon. Thank you,
Good
Jill.
afternoon. Dr.
Ay,
Lydia, can you just move your camera or your screen so that we can see your whole face? All right. Thank you,
Okay.
Dr. Lydia.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry. Firstly, when I was preparing this, I lost my paper. I could not even prepare my PowerPoint. Here, now I'll just read my paper. When I graduated as a chemical engineer, our father was very happy because his dream of becoming an engineer was fulfilled. In the 1920s, when Papa graduated from grade and high school, he had very high grades and excelled in math and sciences. He really wanted to become an engineer, but his dream was shattered when he learned that there were no evening engineering courses offered in the University of the Philippines that time. So he settled to become a lawyer. He made good in law school. He took the bar and established his own office. He was successful in his practice and he gave credit to his success and his excellent knowledge of STEM, subjects in the lower grades education. That was his edge over the other lawyers, the logical and systematic way of research and thinking while writing his pleadings to become an abogado de Capanilla. Assistant Solicitor General described him as the best lawyer of Bulacan that time, apparently for his knowledge of law and setting precedent reported in the Philippine reports and the Supreme Court reports annotated. But truth to tell, I really became a chemical engineer by accident during the 50s and 1960s, and maybe even to 70s. Graduating high school grad students have specially exclusive schools exchanged autograph notebooks, which they wrote personal information excluding their professional preferences. In my case, I consistently wrote that I wanted to be a pharmacist. Graduated and went to UST to enroll as a pharmacist. But in the last moment, I remembered hearing over the radio that at that morning, the Philippines needed engineers in progress. I informed my mother that I will not enroll anymore in the pharmacy, but in chemical engineering in the Faculty of Engineering of UST. During that period, in 1950s, industrialization in the Philippines was beginning to grow and business established a number of manufacturing plants where engineers were employed to support their program. Well, probably first we can start. Who is an engineer? Let us refresh our understanding of engineer. From the Webster, it says, very simply, engineer is one practicing by any branch of engineering. And another, it says, engineering is the application of scientific knowledge to solution of practical problems and as designing structures and apparatus. However, we understand today an engineer is one who translates the basic knowledge, inventions, and researches and scientists and apply technology need to create the end product and vision that is useful for the general population and the industry. In short, an engineer creates new ideas and innovative products, where raw materials, local or imported, are converted to the desired product to be for food, shelter, and industrial uses. This requires knowledge of the systematic procedures, which appropriate equipment to be used or sometimes to be custom made by one or so engineers are forced to design the needed equipment. In chemical engineering, the whole set from raw materials to the finished product should be managed creatively and carefully to be able to that the disruption in the production will not happen. It may be mentioned that during our time or in the 1950s, the University of Santo Tomas offered only 4 engineering disciplines, namely civil, chemical engineering, mechanical, and electrical engineering. Women were enrolled only in chemical engineering. However, when the engineering discipline expanded, including specialized areas such as electronic, industrial, and others, women invaded all the other disciplines. However, the women engineers exceeded their male counterparts in electronics, industrial, and chemical engineering. The workplace are now mixed of women and male engineers. However, the male dominates. Thus, there are a number of challenges that confronts the women engineers in workplace. The male engineer expect the woman who like to act like a man, thinking they are better as women are emotionally and physically weak. In other words, gender stereotyping. They have forgotten that we are created equal by our Lord, but sometimes more intelligent than them. Another challenge is to balance household responsibilities against the office work. To overcome these challenges, women should be firm in their decisions and convictions, particularly in matters of following the policies, rules, and regulations of the office, and apply the knowledge in practicing ethical practices in dealing with everybody, notwithstanding whoever will be affected in their decisions. That is to follow the golden rule is the best way. Women engineers and young girls who wish to be in the field dominated by male engineers, be yourself and keep learning new things about your professional life, and this is a lifelong learning. Have an analytical mind. Join professional association to enrich your knowledge and have new professional friends that you can exchange ideas related to your work. And know your environment, office, professional group, and the world to help you become creative, innovative, and become a world engineer. Keep reading. Do not go with the tide even if you think they are wrong, illegal, and immoral. Have firm belief that decisions based on your knowledge are right conduct and ethics. Do not be discouraged easily when confronted with problems, for it's just a test of your endurance and firmness to be an engineer. If you are working in a company, please be on time, prompt, and do not refuse any assignment that as they may be, your worthiness in the office is being checked. Also, complete staff work before submitting them to the superiors as far as legally and morally possible. Try to be a team player. Be ready to involve in multitasking activities as this will test your ability to work with others. Have reliable mentor who can guide you to rise in your profession and in your work. How can we have a healthy planet as woman engineer? The lady engineer should love the environment. Loving your spatial environment means that you advocate a number of activities that will improve and save the planet. First, follow all the laws and protocols set by the government and try to implement them, starting with small group and later on engaging in nationwide activities. With, with this type of advocacy, the planet will be sustainable. Always remember that to save the earth and earthlings must and cleanliness must next to godliness. Surely we will have a healthy planet if we all do this, doing it in a small way and later on making it in a grandiose way. Good day and thank you. nakatapos na rin.
So thank you so much, Dr. Lydia Tansinsin. That was such an amazing speech. Thank you so much for blazing a trail for lady engineers in the Philippines. And I'm pretty sure you had to encounter so many challenges during your time when you started out in your engineering profession. And I just want to share what to our viewers what I've learned from your speech. No, you said that be firm in your convictions, be yourself, and continue to learn. And just to have continue to have an analytical mind, join professional organizations, and know your environment so you can be a world engineer. Ayan, napakagandang mga words of wisdom ni Dr. Tansinsin. Thank you so much. So at this point, we will bring back in our speakers to entertain a question or two because we're a little bit over time now. So we're going to entertain a question or two from our attendees. So hello again, Carvey. Good afternoon. Sir Boogs, good afternoon. And Dr. Joel Marciano, good afternoon, sir. And is Dr. Tansinsin still there? All right. So thank you so much, dear sir. So I'm joined by, flanked by handsome engineers. All right. So we're going to flash the question now for our panelists. What are the challenges you encountered or encountering as an engineer? How can you encourage more of the youth to be part of this field? So since they mentioned youth, maybe Carvey, you can start with the answer.
For me, I think it's always keeping in mind that the youth would soon be the people that would be leading the next generation. So definitely, the ball is on their hands na. Kaya I think, and as we see, even historically, how engineers created an impact over us throughout history. So I think telling the youth and encouraging them that you can make a dent in the history of the world in the future, I think that would be one of the best things to inspire them as well. Na it's true that you can really create change and it's really possible.
All right. Thank you, Carvey. Wise words from a very young man. All right. Dr. Marciano, do you have anything to say to that question?
Yeah, well, challenges are always there. It's everywhere, no? It's hard to actually pin down one specific thing, but really when you're trying to build new things, when you're trying to build, all these things always come up in terms of how to get materials that are not locally available and how do you source these components and so yeah, it's but then the rewards are there. No? So think about the impact of your work, and that's really what our country needs. We need more builders. We need to build. We must not forget to build, and that's how a country grows. So I would hopefully that motivates young people, because engineers are problem solvers, and there are many problems. So where else should you go? But to places where you would be relevant and where you'd be appreciated and where we can have impact. So that's really the environment that we have here. There are many things the challenges are there, or the more reason why we need engineers. So hopefully that motivates us. The challenges motivate us.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Marciano. So just focus on the impact that you will create. So despite the challenges, just, put your focus there so that you can continue working on your projects and innovation. So Sir Boogs, any answer to that wonderful question? And congratulations, sir, for NBA Q4. What an amazing project.
Oh, thanks. A little bit more to go, but we're almost there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Yeah, I just wanted, I guess for the youth, it's really just such an exciting time to be a young potential engineer in the world today, like Carvey. It's so sad to say na magkaibang generation kami ni Carvey, Hindi ko aaminin yun. Pero sige. But, but basically, the access to information, the global citizenship, it's just so much easier now from an access standpoint and from an awareness standpoint, So you really have a generation that's more connected to the world, sees problems, feels them more deeply. And, you combine that with all the information available. There's really just so much to play with, from an engineering standpoint. And there's still so much to discover. So parang ano engineering really hits a lot of that type of curiosity, that type of innovation. So parang swak na swak siya for, I think, this generation coming up in a world of information and access, I think. So I think, I think that's how they should perceive it. No? It's always great to have an impact, but also have fun while doing it. And I think that's what the current world offers us.
Wow, that's amazing, sir. Actually, we need to remind ourselves to also have fun, right? So, all right. So here is another question from Emmanuel Benko from Facebook. He's asking, what should aspiring engineers do to become great in their field? So we'll turn the table around and go to Dr. Marciano first.
Collaborate. I mentioned being T-shaped. Well, being around other people with different discipline, from different backgrounds, really motivates you because you can build bigger things together rather than things you can do on your own. Because you might be good at something, but then you needed something else in order to create bigger impact or solve a bigger problem. Let's say, instead of solving a chemistry problem, you solve a clean energy problem, then you start looking for people in other disciplines. So that makes you better. That makes engineers better. If we start working, not just with fellow engineers, by the way, work with economists, work with social scientists. So that rounds us up, and that makes our skills even more, highlights our skills even more, because we bring something to the table. And these people also bring something to the table, and we can solve bigger problems together. So that's my advice.
Thank you, Dr. Marciano. And Sir Boogs, I remember you saying this at the very end of your presentation. Collaboration is also key. Even if you have the best technology with you, if you don't have this, then nothing happens. So, Sir Boogs?
Yeah, I completely agree with Dr. Marciano. I think that's a key part of really leveraging and parang force multiplier of what you can do, if you collaborate well. I'll just add on to that in the sense that really enjoy the journey, Don't be in a rush to get to a particular place. I think, each step you're taking, obviously, that should be seen with a certain amount of reason, but don't rush through things. Be open to new ideas. Always absorb where you are in the moment, the information that's available to you. Because I think those are really building blocks towards, aspiring to a more successful career. So I think there's a tendency kasi to maybe shortcut or be impatient. But if you continue to really absorb where you are, work with the people around you, and as long as you continue to learn, I think that's really the best formula for a long-term success in your respective field, any field, even outside of engineering. Thanks.
Ang galing, ang galing. So thank you, Sir Boogs. That's a very good reminder for all of us, who's probably going through some challenges or just stressed with all the things that need to be done. So that's a very good reminder for all of us. So Carvey, any answer to that question?
For me, drawing siguro from being a student then, I think it's to be very strong in the fundamentals. Kasi in my experience, pag engineering students, most of the time, example, EE ako, so medyo hindi ko napapansinin yung other subjects ko, which I think is something na hindi dapat natin gawin, but rather, kahit basic subjects siya, example, basic chemistry, basic material science, basic mechanics, and so on, kahit hindi siya yung expertise mo, seryosohin pa rin natin and be strong dun sa foundations na yun. Kasi eventually, who knows, dun tayo huhugot ng mga techniques or other design inspirations maybe on our expertise itself. Na I think it would also fall the same to the concept of yung T na yun. So, kahit may electrical engineer tayo or may specific tayong course or parang degree in mind, let's still be open and be strong sa foundation. Kasi I think if strong yung foundation natin, we can really literally go to greater heights din. So, yun.
All right. Thank you so much, Carvey. Ang gagaling. I learned so much, a lot from all our speakers today. And I just want to say thank you so much to each and every one of you for giving your time to celebrate with us World Engineering Day. And again, congratulations on all your projects. Thank you for giving the time to to share with us your expertise and inspiring all our Filipino engineers, and perhaps in a room, someone or a lady, a young person who's mulling over the engineer profession has been inspired by you today. So thank you so much for all your wonderful work. Happy World Engineering Day. All right. So again, thank you to all our speakers for your presentations and for answering our audience's questions. So unanswered questions from our viewers will be collated by the MWF team and will be shared to our speakers. A summary of their answers will be sent to the registered attendees. All right, so now let's move on to our next segment to give a message about the projects and plans for Filipino engineers, direction on how to engage the youth in science and technology and promote quality education for future engineers, and of course, DOST's contribution in the achievement of sustainable development. Let us all watch a pre-recorded message from the Secretary of the Department of Science and Technology, Secretary Fortunato Pena.
Thank you, everyone. At the outset, let me extend my gratitude to the Manila Water Foundation for inviting me to this important event that aims to highlight the importance of engineering in addressing sustainable development goals. We all acknowledge the fact that engineering has and will continue to play an important role in understanding and analyzing problems and designing solutions to national and global concerns, particularly at this time of a health emergency and as we move towards recovery from this crisis. Thus, we welcome UNESCO's General Conference Declaration of March 4 as World Engineering Day to raise awareness and joint participation and support in this field of endeavor. I was invited to today's forum to respond to the talks of our esteemed speakers who made presentations earlier. I will endeavor to enrich their presentations by focusing my response on the following. First, the Department of Science, Technology plans and projects involving engineering. And second, engagement of the youth in science, technology, and engineering. And third, DOS's contribution in the achievement of sustainable development. First of all, I, of course, am pleased to share with you that I, as Secretary of the Department, is an engineer, and I have been a professor of engineering at the University of the Philippines for actually 38 years, although my teaching career lasted for 43 years. Now, in the DOST system, there are what we call plantilla positions. These are the permanent positions. And we have 4,846 plantilla positions. Out of this, 951 or 19.5% or almost 20% are occupied by engineering graduates. Now let me move on to something that we have been proud of, and this is the significant leap in our Global Innovation Index ranking. In 2020, the Philippines achieved its best rank ever in the Global Innovation Index. We reached the 50th spot out of 131 participating economies, going up by 4 places from 54th place in 2019. The outstanding performance has been achieved for 2 consecutive years now, from rank 73 going up to 54 in 2018 to 2019, and from 54 to 50 in 2019 to 2020. In fact, the Philippines has moved up by 50 notches in just 6 years, where the country was still at 100th place in 2014. The DOST considers the leap in our GII ranking as a testament that its efforts in spearheading the development and application of science, technology, and innovation in various sectors are bearing fruits. Now, let me talk about DOST plans and projects. The DOST, as the government institution mandated to steer science and technology development in the country, is making concrete steps to develop our capabilities and harness these technologies to benefit the economy and our society. Our strategic plan, which we call Science for the People, outlines the strategies, programs, and projects to harness science, technology, and innovation in addressing the country's problems, such as reducing poverty incidence, increasing the productivity of various sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, and the services industries. And our goal is to make the product, services, and opportunities in science and technology contribute to making development more inclusive. This is by ensuring greater access by the regions, including the marginalized sectors. We also lay down programs that prepare the country for future requirements and possibilities. In the last 4 years, we have aggressively pursued programs to generate new knowledge and technologies, accelerate transfer and adoption by various sectors, and develop our science and technology human resources. Of course, and to enhance research and development capacities of institutions, particularly those located outside the metropolitan Manila area and the highly urbanized cities. We have also made significant accomplishments in providing science and technology assistance to our micro, small, and medium enterprises and communities, forging of international collaboration as well as linkages with the private sector. Our R&D programs are guided by the Harmonized National R&D Agenda, or HNRDA, which articulate the national priorities and guide public investments in research and development. The R&D priorities in the HNRDA are classified into 5 major sectors, namely agriculture, aquatic and natural resources, that's number 1. Number 2, industry, energy, and emerging technologies. Number 3 is health. Number 4 is disaster risk reduction and climate change. And number 5 is basic research. Undoubtedly, these sectors would require engineering interventions in the implementation of R&D programs and projects. For example, in agriculture, research on farm mechanization involves design and performance efficiency machineries, which would call for expertise in mechanical, electrical, and industrial engineering. We had several programs in industry, energy, and emerging technologies that involve multidisciplinary fields of expertise, including engineering. Examples of these programs are on space technology applications, advanced transport systems, materials and minerals processing, and security and defense. Our program on sustainable mass transport system, which developed our hybrid electric train, hybrid electric road train, and now ongoing, the hybrid trimaran, engaged a significant number of engineers. We have already produced promising technologies from the different R&D engagements that benefited from engineering interventions. Very quickly, I just want to give the latest examples. This is a charging station for electric vehicles that can recharge within 30 minutes. We call it CHARM or CHARM. We have the chemical sensors for mine site monitoring to reduce the risk for our miners in the field. We have Hydromet, which provides timely data in key areas of the country to serve as input in models and other decision-making tools. This would include deployed automatic terrain gauges. We have around 600 of them. And water level monitoring systems. We have 400 of them in 18 major river basins. And of course, additional areas requesting for Hydromet services or devices. Now, let's talk about opportunities for the youth in science, technology, and engineering. Investment in education of the youth in science and technology courses is a priority for the Department of Science and Technology. We encourage them to pursue science and technology courses or careers in the future through our scholarship programs that are offered beginning from secondary education. Most of you know that the Philippine Science High School system is part of the Department of Science and Technology. And then we have scholarships at the undergraduate or the baccalaureate level, and at the graduate levels, MS and PhD. Now, what are the contributions that DOST is making towards the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals? DOST's contribution to the attainment of the SDGs are through the generation of knowledge and information, as well as development of various technologies arising from our research and development programs. If I may cite some examples, we have, for example, SDG number 2, or Zero Hunger. And we have an ongoing, for a number of years now, a malnutrition reduction program led by our Food and Nutrition Research Institute. So this is actually a package of intervention which involves direct feeding of rice mongo-based complementary foods for 6 months to 3 years old children. And of course, the nutrition education for mothers and caregivers. Now we have goal number 3, SDG 3, which is good health and well-being. And I will cite here 3 major programs of DOST, all directed towards this. Our Tuklas Lunas program, which continues to make important leaps in advancing the discovery and development of health products coming from natural resources. We also have a program in the development of biomedical devices and, of course, diagnostic kits. We started, for example, in the detection of dengue in our diagnostic kit program, to leptospirosis, and then when COVID-19 came, we were easily able to repurpose our program to come up with the first Philippine PCR diagnostic kit. Now, our National Nutrition Survey that's being spearheaded by our Food and Nutrition Research Institute also plays an important role in providing baseline data for evidence-based planning and formulation of appropriate strategies and interventions under SDG 3. Now, for goal number 4, which is quality education, I think I have already mentioned earlier that we provide scholarships starting from secondary up to the graduate level. And more than that, we are also active in developing supplementary materials for teaching science and mathematics and implementing special scholarship programs for highly technical but important fields. Okay, like now we are trying to catch up in data science. For goal number 8, this is actually on decent work and economic growth. We have been trying to find ways to enhance the productivity and efficiency of our communities and the production sector. One avenue is through a technology upgrading used by our micro, small, and medium enterprises, which actually comprises 90% of our enterprises in the Philippines. For goal 9, under industry innovation and infrastructure, we are implementing, as I said, the harmonized national R&D agenda, and a major initiative that we have starting when I came in as head of the department is the strategy which involves the adoption of science, technology, and innovation by implementing capacity building initiatives in partnership with academic institutions and with industry stakeholders. Our goal is to create a vibrant innovation ecosystem, so we introduced our Science for Change program. We also have goal number 10. Still would require a lot of engineering on sustainable cities and communities. So this would include introduction of sustainable mass transport, disaster risk reduction, and other technologies and systems that if I might say, employ a lot of engineering expertise. For goal number 12 on climate action, we have a risk resiliency and climate change program. And this is spearheaded by our PAG-ASA, the Weather Bureau, and our PBOTS, which is in charge of our volcanoes, of course, and earthquakes. and tsunamis, and they have actually come up with very improved weather observing facilities, improved data analytics on weather forecasting, volcano, earthquake, and tsunami warning systems for disaster risk reduction. We have apps like the GeoRisk Philippines. We have space technology programs that also assist them by way of computing and archiving the research environment. I would like to conclude by saying that the many programs that I have mentioned are being implemented to help various sectors and communities through science, technology, and innovation, and to pump prime their operations and create new opportunities and trajectories for growth. These initiatives were undertaken in are being undertaken in close coordination and partnership with the institutions in the academe, with industry, with national and local governments, civil society, and international partners. As a government institution, our role is to champion innovation and create an enabling environment for it to flourish and put into action. The OST gives premium to research and the generation of new knowledge. At the same time, we give equal importance to delivering these results and seeing them used to promote more inclusive socio-economic development. We believe that the value of science, technology, and innovation can only be measured by the solutions and opportunities that they provide and the positive impact that they create on society. More needs to be done, and we call on our partners, our engineers, partner with us and help address the challenges that confront us in this time of pandemic and as we take the path to recovery. Specifically, we urge the private sector to use science-based information and adapt technologies, especially locally developed by our universities, research institutions, and inventors, in expanding your businesses and creating new ones. We call on your entrepreneurial spirit to invest on these technologies in new businesses and startups or support our budding entrepreneurs as they hone their skills, engage more customers, and perfect business processes to enable their ventures to grow and mature. I have always been an optimist. I never lived, I never left the country. Okay, so uh, for example, in the family, I was only the one left here. All my siblings left the country. Okay, same true with my wife. Only my wife was left here. All the siblings went abroad. We we keep we keep our optimism and hope that we will really grow and progress. And I think our engineers will play a very important role. So let us have faith in ourselves. Let's be confident. We can do a lot, okay? And we just have to work harder, smarter, and operate, collaborate with one another. I greet you all on this World Engineering Day celebration. Thank you, and mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you, Secretary de la Peña, for being such a true patriot and for continuing to be an ally for all Filipino engineers, because truly you are right. Engineers are the key to society's problem, to society solutions. Of course, thank you to all your wonderful programs and for contributing to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. All right, so to close today's webinar and the celebration of the 2021 World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development, let us welcome the Executive Director of Manila Water Foundation, Mr. Reginald Andal.
Thank you, Jill. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank you all for joining us today for the celebration of the World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development. In today's webinar, let me extend first our sincere gratitude to our program partners, the Department of Science and Technology and the Philippine Technological Council, as well as our webinar co-presenters, Manila Water Company, Globe Telecom, and Integrated Microelectronics. It would not be possible for us to hold this event without your valuable support. Complex issues require sustainable solutions, and it is only through the power of science, technology, and engineering that we offer innovative solutions for current and emerging societal issues and challenges. And we truly need our engineers, who are considered our program solvers, systems builders in implementing strategic approaches to tackle the sustainable development goals. Today, we have seen that engineering is for everyone: men, women, youth. We need collective efforts of different expertise and perspectives to ensure that no one is left behind as we navigate the modern world. The enthusiasm of Carvey Maigue and the experience of Dr. Lydia Tansinsin can serve as true inspiration on how each of us can be very good in diagnosing our global and local challenges and creating purpose-driven innovations. We just need the support from all stakeholders: academe, industry, and the government. Today, we are happy to hear a lot of opportunities for our engineers through the programs of DOST-PCIEERD and Philippine Space Agency. The research and development up to the commercialization of emerging technologies and startup projects are phases that would require immense assistance from our experts and authorities. And more than ever now, the urgent need for sustainable water supply, sanitation, and hygiene services has been highlighted during this pandemic. Manila Water implements projects in order to ensure the reliable, responsible, and sustainable utilization of our natural resources to meet the basic needs of the populace. In closing, we need to work together to build a sustainable world, and our engineers should continue to engage and work with communities, policymakers, and experts from every discipline to ensure global development benefits for everyone, especially our marginalized and underserved sector. With that, I hope that all of us will take inspiration from our outstanding engineers. Let this be the start of our continuing collaboration in building capacity for more engineers with the right skills to advance and achieve the sustainable development goals. Your Manila Water Foundation is committed to take an active role on this purpose for engineering to transform the world for the better. Happy World Engineering Day. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. Thank you and have a great day ahead.
Thank you so much, Sir Reg, for that wonderful message. And just like what Sir Reg mentioned, complex issues require innovative solutions. And Manila Water Foundation is just so happy to be part of this solution or this journey to having a better world. So before we end, we invite everyone to answer a short evaluation form by scanning the QR code flashed in your screen. So let me just move here. All right. So please just scan that QR code so that you can get to the short evaluation form so that we can get your feedback on how to further improve our program. So a link to the survey platform is also posted in the comments section. So an electronic certificate will be issued as soon as you have accomplished the evaluation form. So for those of you who attended and want an e-certificate, please do answer this survey. All right. So as promised, we are now going to announce the winners of our quiz. So are you all excited to know the winners? All right. So I'm pretty excited. Thank you so much for participating. All right. And our winners are Jervy Neil Montalban Aguilion, Wens Rosen Feliciano, Leo May Salud Tuquero, Paul Edward Acosta, and Joey Ann De La Roca. Again, congratulations for winning Globe at Home prepaid Wi-Fi modem and 300 pesos worth of data. So for the instructions on how to get your prizes, kindly send a personal message or a PM to Manila Water Foundation's Facebook page. Again, just send a PM or a personal message to Manila Water Foundation's Facebook page to know how to get your prizes. All right? So thank you very much for everyone's participation. It's been truly an honor to be your host for today. On behalf of Manila Water Foundation and our partners, DOST, PTC, Manila Water, IMI, Globe, we hope that you had a fun learning experience as much as I did. So let's continue to be engineers for a healthy planet. Again, I am Jill Ramos, and see you on our next webinar. Happy World Engineering Day!